Yeah, we will, one, we appreciate being invited back, so that must be it. Yeah, but I said we must be your snow magnet. Last time we were down here, we were talking about snow coming. This time you already had the snow, so I hope you don't have enough of the kind. But we do appreciate the invitation, and we always take this opportunity to thank y'all for being members of the association. You know, we always say that 100 counties has a much stronger voice than 1 plus 1 plus 1. So we do appreciate that. And right now, in particular, a lot of things going on at the General Assembly. As you know, we still don't have a budget, but we have a lot of discussion about issues around county government, in particular the tax issues, looking at property tax. So we hope you will be there to help us do that and support. We can talk about, we always, there weren't any taxes, but the fact is the bills have to be paid. And there has to be revenue generated some way. And that's what I think the association wants to be mindful of and remind them that it seems to be a popular trend right now to talk about doing away with property tax. But then there's kind of a lot of conversation about what replaces the property tax if it goes away. And so we're watching that conversation and seeing what happens, and we probably will be calling upon you for help in that conversation again, how that impacts counties, and if it does impact counties, we can stay ready to step up. The other thing I'll mention before we get this conversation this morning is the great big beautiful bill and the implications it has for you. There will be costs associated with that, and some of the administrative costs that come with that, counties will have to assume. So that's something to expect in your budget conversations, the enforcement there, and so there'll be some things coming down on that. So hopefully you'll be mindful of that as you get in the budget process. I just mentioned those two because those are sort of the major things and ones we'll probably call on the counties to help with. But this morning we want to take a few minutes and just talk about board relations and working together as a team, and the importance of that. I was looking at my notes and we talked about this, so I tried to change it up some from what we talked about last time. But again, it all comes back to the importance of, and a quote I saw in an article that one manager noted that they reminded their board that they all have one thing in common, is that they love their community. But then the twist in that, but they all love it in a different way. And that is sort of the key to governance, is you all come to this, as elected officials, and I'm going to include the department heads and staff too, you all come to public purpose. Public service is basically a love of community and a love of serving others. Now, how to best make that effective and make that work best is what we will talk about. And in this case, talk about a board and working as a board and working together as a board. And I think we did have some issues last time, but it sounds like things have moved forward and that you are progressing. Of course, it's one of those election years. And for those of us who have been around this business a long time, that sort of changes things. I used to laugh, and I think Denise or Scott Warren probably, you could always tell a commissioner when election season, when their name went on the ballot, their mind shifted a little bit toward politics. And rightfully so, because you have to have a chance to serve the citizens, you have to get elected. So rightfully so, there's politics that come into it, and that's a part of what we do, and mindful of that. And as a public servant too, you pay attention to that. I remember many nights watching the returns, or somebody calling me from the office to tell me what the returns were, because trying to decide who my bosses were going to be come the first Monday of December. So I say that because it does have implications if you're running a commissioner on staff, because their livelihoods and so unfortunately are tied to the elected officials and elections. So the election season is a good time to sort of have a conversation and be mindful of the implications and what's important there. I just want to touch upon a couple of key points and reasons why this is so important, and then how good versus bad becomes when this article talks about functional governance versus dysfunctional. Why is important? We touched upon it about stability and thinking about a board working together, but also there's others that are outside of maybe your board meeting conversations, things that are impacted. If there's a perception from the outside looking in that there isn't a functioning board and a board that's working together and pulling together. Again, I qualify, it's not about agreeing all the time, but it's about working together for the county. And that don't mean you won't disagree about how to get there. As we said, you love it different ways. You have objectives of getting there in different ways, but there are ways to work together in doing that. But some of the quick things to talk about, the implication it can be, and every county has a reputation. As I've always said, you have the counties that people say, hey, they got a good thing going on over there. Or, hey, they've got struggles. Or, hey, if you watch that YouTube video of their last meeting, that's not the board it's the one where people are tuning in to see what happened at your last meeting. And unfortunately, we have some counties that meet that mantra, and you do want to watch their meeting to be entertained. That's not the reason you have the meeting. But there's some things that are impacted. One, and one of the biggest ones, economic development. As we all know, all the counties are striving to build their economies and strengthen internally, plus strengthen maybe internal employers and the people and the business you already have. And economic development can be impacted by a county that's perceived as dysfunctional. That there's not, because so many times industries, what do they have to do? Or businesses, they have to get you services from you. They have to get utilities from you. There's things that they need from you. And if they think, I don't know if I can work with that bunch, then unfortunately there's a likelihood they may take their investment somewhere else. So economic development is one. Another is recruitment of new staff. And I don't know that the market has changed. We all know it's an employee market now. We went for years as an employer market, and you could look at county employees and say, well, you just should be happy you have a job. But that day's over, and now the employee has a lot of opportunities and flexibility as to where they work. And people are willing to travel more to work. So unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of counties struggling with filling positions. And so, I'm not saying it's the only reason, but vacancies can come from saying, I just don't want to work there. That place is all over the place. I'd rather go find some stability somewhere. So one of the drawbacks of having dysfunctional in the county and from the board is that staff may look at other opportunities. I have some counties that when we recruit their manager, we do help with manager recruitment. Some counties, when you talk to potential candidates, they say, I'm not applying there. There's no way I'm applying there. You don't want to be one of those counties that gets in that realm. You don't want to, and that can come if there appears to be dysfunction within the board. And that translates over to staff. There's such key positions right now, counties across the state are finance officers are worth their weight in gold. Tax administrators are joining that list. We talk about paramedics. We talk about sheriff employees. These are folks that have options where they may want to work. And if you give a reason not to want to work in your community, there can be a big cost to that. So that's another reason for the board. And turnover. We hear counties that talk about the turnover. And unfortunately, I have some counties that when department head appears before the board, they don't know if they're going to be thanked or roasted. That's not the way your staff should have to interact with the board in a public setting. And as we always say, board members, if you have an issue with department head, which they'll arrive, that's just part of the business, but deal with it in a professional way through the staff, through the manager, and do it behind the scenes and not in a public forum. That can lend itself to turnover. The other thing, and sometimes if you think about it, if there's a perception that that's the way the county operates, being unruly or disagreeable, it just feeds the community in that way. It feeds those appearing before you. Well, if those folks are acting that way, when I get up in front of them, I'm gonna act that way. Or if that's the way the boards you appoint, if that's the way the commissioners operate, why shouldn't we operate that way? They appointed us. It can have a trickle-down effect throughout the whole organization. If it's perceived that in county government, it's every man for himself, or every woman for himself, and that civility is out. Some people say, well, that's just the way politics is. It don't have to be that way. It's not always been that way, and it don't have to be that way. And so that tone that's set, and sometimes commissioners can forget, hey, we can go at each other, but in a positive way. And plus, remember, there's other people watching, and it can trickle down to if a commissioner in a meeting berates a citizen, your building inspector may say, well, what's it matter if I berate them? That's the way they're treated by the commissioners. Why should it be any different the way I treat them? So how you treat staff, citizens, translates into how county government delivers services, and something to be mindful of. And those appointed boards and commission members that you have, you appoint a lot of people, folks, and they take their cue from you as to how they function in that role. Good governance and the keys versus, on the good side, the ability of a board to make an unpopular decision, but necessary decisions. As a board, you face those. There's going to be things that are unpopular that have to be done. How you do that, respectful of each other, respectful of different opinions. And I know I always tell this, that you're not going, if you all agreed on everything as a board, then you wouldn't meet with one of them. Just pick one and send them up here. You're going to disagree, but at the same time, doing it in a manner that, and some of the decisions are hard. It can get personal and can get passionate, but being able to do that in a professional way. Versus the other side of that is, where it ends up with personal attacks on each other in staff or the public, where you can get real personal. And it's a challenge you as a county, your side, and I know at one time I went to visit the manager of Wake County, and I asked him, I said, David, how many people come in your office to talk to you? Zero. And God and I worked in the same county. I was used to citizens coming in and talking quite a bit, because we were the size, they felt comfortable coming in and seeing us, and talking to us, interacting with us. So it's a lot of personal in the county the size of Gate County. It's real personal. You know these folks. You either go to church with them, graduate with them, or their cousin married your uncle, or there's just so many connections, that you have to be mindful that it can be personal, and you can't let that get out of hand. It's got to be professional, and that's a hard one to do sometimes. As I had the worst thing you can have is the commissioner says if he's for it or she's for it, I'm against it. That don't lend itself for anyone. The other thing in good governance is the ability to explain decisions to your constituents. That is so important, is to be able to listen and explain to them why a decision had to be made. People, I have found, and again as a manager, a lot of people came to my office that were very upset, just wanted to be listened to. They just wanted somebody to listen. And even if they didn't get the answer they wanted to get, but they wanted to feel like they were heard. And I've seen boards, you don't want to run that risk when they want to start telling you something, say, well, let me explain that to you. Just listen to them. Let them have their say. And then that lends itself. You run the risk sometimes of coming across those of us who do this every day and have done it every day, that you want to dominate the discussion because you have all the facts. You you know the issue. Well, but we work for the public. So we need to listen to where they're coming from. And so that's important. And that can be in the setting of a board meeting or just on a one-on-one conversation. It helps us board. Respecting the council manager form of government, in this case the board manager, that's something that is a slippery slope. Again, if you know people, you can say, well, I can take care of that for you. But that's a slippery slope when people perceive that I just call my commissioner and they handle that. They need to use the organization. I mean, not saying you have to be ironclad, but try to remind yourself that there is an organization and that you need to use the chain of command to communicate. And if you call the department head directly to ask for something, you just probably bump somebody else from getting something done. Because the department's going to move your request to the top of the list. Rather than it going through the chain where it's perceived as being. Because that's the last thing you want too out in the community is the perception is, well, whoever knows somebody gets what they want. Or whoever screams the loudest gets what they want. That can be just, that can not only be detrimental in that little situation, it can be detrimental in big decisions too. Because when you do have a controversial decision, people say, I knew that was the way it's going to go, but they know the right people. You know, when it had nothing to do with it. But if there's a perception, that's the way it's looked at. That's important. The other thing, and I think we touched upon it last year, but recognizing that every board member has a right to an opinion and has a belief in what they think is the correct approach. I'd encourage you to, one, listen to fellow board members, listen to staff for their input. You won't all at the end of the day agree, but try to be respectful of where they're coming from. And I can tell you there's many times in mine, I thought I knew exactly what the right thing to do was, but then when I heard somebody else's perspective, it opened my eyes that maybe I wasn't. I need to listen. There's a reason you're a board. There's a reason counties don't elect dictators. You elect boards because people's different perspectives, different ideas, and those different ideas do no good if you don't listen to each other and aren't open to others, and being willing to change your mind. That's a hard one to do sometimes. All of us to admit, I was probably wrong. I need to go in a different direction. Again, that we touched upon about not that the position should be some of the hardest things I've heard new board members talk about doing is when you're outside campaigning and you're looking in, well, just do the right thing. Well, the first right thing when you're looking, there's somebody you went to church with, and there's somebody you grew up with, and they're on the two sides of a zoning issue or a controversial issue. What's the right thing? You ask them, they'll tell you what's the right thing. You ask them, they'll tell you what's right. Well, you've got to decide. So that's where doing it based on the facts and what you feel is the best interest of the community. And that's what new board members have always told me. They just did not realize the decisions you have to make where there's not a right answer and a wrong answer. There's decisions where you have to choose and you have to do it because of what you feel is the right thing to do. And those can be some of the hardest ones. And some where people realize that it's not black and white issues or right and wrong issues, but there's some different things. Again, we talked about this last time too, about short memory, respect our colleagues' right to vote however they do. That's one that there's been times, and I think a healthy board probably is one that where your opponent in a vote is different from time. It's not always the same people. It might be these folks one time and these folks the other time. I've seen boards where it's always 32 votes on everything. There's something else going on there. But when you have different folks, different dissension, that can be, because there's no doubt to me a red flag on the board that says, and I've had them, we're unanimous on everything. That's a problem in itself. Because somebody's running the board. I don't know who it is. somebody's running the board. Because, you know, I'm not unanimous with my wife every day. I don't expect your board of commissioners going to be unanimous on it. So there are times when you have to respect that. Right to choose. This one thing here too is in this election season is about votes for political gain rather than community good. We see this time of year. That's unfortunate. We get these Florida counties start adopting resolutions about issues at the federal and state level have nothing to do with county government, in the sense that maybe they're just for political grandstanding. I tell you, stay away from that if you can, if it's possible. As in one commissioner I knew, I had a new commissioner come on, he wanted to adopt a resolution about something county had nothing to do with it. And the veteran commissioner looked at him and said, "We got enough to worry about. I'm not worried about that. You know, I'm not worried about that issue, and I don't want that to become the issue for us to worry about because we got enough on our plate right now. You can have your opinion about it. We may agree on it or disagree. That's not something we want to waste our time doing with." And thankfully in this case, the new commissioner agreed, listened to that, but I was just at the manager conference and manager tell me a resolution a commissioner had on the board about, it was something about child protective services and getting down into the weeds, and you know, that's all real private matters that you don't, and he was going to, when the board put on the agenda, a resolution about a particular private protective service case. And that goes the other extreme, where it wasn't federal, it was personal and it was private. And it was not going to be helpful to anybody, other than it was one of his supporters' family involved. And he needed to go on record that he was supporting what they were doing. That's the kind of thing to stay away from in the political. Once the vote is held, one of the hardest thing too is to accept the outcome. It gets very passionate sometimes, but long-serving commissioners usually have short-term memories. I've seen commissioners come on the board, and man, when they lost, they got mad, and they just became less and less a factor on the board, and they built up grudges, and they held hard feelings, and they just alienated themselves to where they were a non-factor on the board. Versus board members said, "Hey, we got passionate that night. I lost the vote. Next meeting, you'd have never known it happened." And we're all in. That's the county's position now. I'm not going to tell you I'm going to go out and celebrate it and sing it from the rooftops, but I'm not going to go out and down with what the board's done. I respect the decision of the board. I'm a board member. Let's move on. And so that's something to be mindful of. And that too is with staff. I think so important, and we talked about retention of staff, but also just self-respect of the staff and what they do and what they go through. Probably there's so many, and I know anybody that's been a manager like myself, is that you hope that there's a lot of things your board doesn't even know were ever issues, because you've already resolved them before it got to the board, that you've taken care of before it got to the board. So with that said, that's true of probably a lot of your county employees. Be mindful that they're doing work out there every day for you, and probably preventing a lot of things from ever getting on your plate because they're working to resolve issues with citizens, with organizations. They prevent a lot of those things from ever reaching you where you have to deal with them. Again, respecting staff, respecting the chain of command. It gets real easy to want to micromanage, but sometimes you've got to remember in the staff that they're there every day. They know everybody that's involved. And when it's outside looking in, it's sort of like being a fan of a sports team. It's easy to armchair quarterback and say, "Why'd they do that? Why'd they do that?" But if you're in there every day in the trenches and know what's going on, you may know and respect that. They may know things that you're not aware of. Not saying they still don't know who they work for. You know, staff will always know the board holds ultimate sway, but respect the fact that they have background in so many issues. Important thing for the board to do is have an agreement among yourself how you're gonna operate. I don't know if y'all have the rules of procedure. A lot of counties do, that are helpful. I think those can be mindful of and help, and what you expect of each other. That goes back to, there's key things that board members owe to each other, I think. One is honesty, be straightforward with me, communicate with me, don't surprise me. That's a big one. Don't surprise me. I've seen board members come in the room and say, well, I just talked to the department head and he told me this, we need to take care of that. And the rest of the board like, why didn't you tell me that before we got in? What am I just hearing about this for now? Wait till a board meeting, you've known about this a couple of days. Why didn't you pick up a phone or call the manager and say, could you share this with my fellow board members that this is what's going on before we get into board meeting? Those type of things, just small things, but they're very, very important of how you agree to deal with each other. And then finally, doing your homework. As a manager, we used to get frustrating. First thing, issue on the agenda, the commissioner would ask a question that was answered in the first sentence of the agenda pack. And they haven't looked at the agenda pack. So, being ready to govern, it is a business meeting. And I had a commissioner one time that I always reminded we'd get ready to do a public hearing. He said, yeah, public hearing, that's why we have it. That's why we allow public hearings there to have public input. Our business here is to conduct the business of the county. And to do that, everybody needs to come prepared to do the business of the county. And be prepared on the issues and informed on the issues. And this goes back to respect to staff. If there are questions, call and ask them. A staff member would much rather answer your question on the phone in their office than they would in a public meeting. So if you've got the questions coming in, just go ahead and ask them. And now they're probably going to share that, and it helps staff too. If you ask a question that you can't see the answer to in an agenda packet, then there's a good chance your fellow board members may not can see that answer. So this allows staff to go back and clarify what this means. As I always remember one meeting, somebody came to a board meeting and they said, well, Neil, you didn't say much in the meeting. I said, that was a good meeting. If I didn't have to say anything, that meant I'd given the board what they needed to make decisions. So that was a good meeting. I haven't seen it. And that's your goal as a staff, is to get the board informed to do the business of the county. The other thing is, and again, and it sounds like you may not have any change, but mindful of changes on the board in the election year. We've got counties across the state will have major changes on their board, and there's a couple of key things there. It's a transition in the first meeting in December. There will see some counties that have no change whatsoever. They'll just keep on. There's others that their whole culture will change, and their whole culture may involve one new commissioner, or it may involve a majority of commissioners. But key there is the incumbent commissioners is to go into that thinking, just because we've always done it that way, don't mean we have to keep doing it. If new board members come on, and what we tell them in the new commissioner school is, you're a commissioner now, you have the equal status as a commissioner's been around 20 years. But if there's things you see that can make the board better and effective, each board can sit down and say, here's how we want to do business. I don't know, and when I had a new chairman, I always ask, how did you want to be communicated with? Has it ever been call you, text you, email you, come see you? Different people have different ways. And then I've had managers say, well, I don't like this new board member, he won't visit. They're the board member. You adapt to what they need. And that's usually, particularly for the manager and the clerk, you adjust. Different personalities, they like things done a different way. Let that be known as a board. But at the same time, as incumbents, is to recognize the responsibility of incumbent board member and staff to prepare new commissioners. We have a lot of counties now that have the early primary. You've got sitting people waiting to come on the board of commissioners for how many months is that? can be a delicate time when these folks are coming on with the sitting commissioners or the board of commissioners. But at the same time, knowing I've got to bring these new commissioners up to speed. Having a planned process to do that. A lot of boards have orientations for new board members, bring them up to speed on things. I had a county, and I will say that this manager was sitting a former manager in that county, and I said, well, have you had an orientation with your new board? She had a new majority coming up. And she said, no, I've not met two of them before the swearing in. I thought, this ain't going to end well. And it didn't. Because she had aligned herself with her incumbents, and they lost. And all of a sudden, it didn't end well. But, so having that orientation for new board members, that helps as you go through change, and being mindful that some of these board decisions, who's going to be on the board is decided in the primary in a lot of counties. And so it's a new day in that, and how you do that. And bringing on board new board members, and it's amazing. I don't know how many of y'all board members, being a county commissioner, the perception you had of what it was versus what it actually is, usually is the same. And so you've got to remind yourself that anybody new coming on, it's the same thing. They think they know what they do. I had one new one come on, and he thought he could change social services totally. And then when I broke it to him, and you're a menu. And over in the rain. I mean, he thought he could, and you couldn't tell him different while he was running. But then when he got in there, we were like, those are programs you don't control. And he just didn't have anything to do there. He came around, but that's the way he ran. And I just remind you, if you're coming, to be mindful of that as new board members, and encourage them to use the association's training, the essentials. I think it's a good school. And help them through that. And I think y'all probably do, but you'd be surprised, especially some of our large counties, if commissioners do not know each other, they do not communicate with each other. I've had board members say, one county recently, they said, odds are they would not see a fellow commissioner between meetings. They would not talk to a fellow commissioner between meetings. That's hard to do. I encourage staying in communication and talk to each other regularly. There's nothing against talking to each other one-on-one. And, majority, be careful. But talking to each other and understanding where each other are coming from is vitally important. So those are all key things. This goes on to talk about norms for governing a good board, and key, and I don't want to take too long in this. I know y'all got an agenda to deal with, but one is to have a perspective of a community-wide perspective, and not getting caught up in, I've got to represent my corner of the county. When you get elected, you are not then, even if you're in the district, color at large.
By district at large.
Residential by at large. And we have counties that run by district, and we have whole expansion. But once elected, you represent everybody in the county. And you're not just looking after the interest of your community, but rather the county-wide. And some of the bravest decisions I've seen board members make is when they say, I've seen them do it. It's like, my community says they need a school, but I know this other side of the county needs one more. And they vote to do the right thing and invest where it needs to be done. And that's when you're serving the county and community. And working together as a board, it is a team sport. Some people feel like, well, I was elected individually, but as you know, those of you who've been on the board, if you can't work together as a group, you're not going to accomplish anything. And that's where that agreeing to disagree, listen to one another, and communicate with each other, and always go into it assuming good intent with each other. Sometimes you talk to a fellow board member, you know, where are they coming from? Where are they talking about? But if you try to dig a little deeper, try to listen and understand where they're coming from, can go a long way, because everybody's got a different story. You know, where they're coming from is a different path. And so trying to understand where they're coming from and not just blocking it off and, hey, they're wrong, I'm right. That's the way it has to be. And the one thing I've lost in a lot of this, and talking along those lines, is that compromise has sort of become an ugly word. Supposedly you have to stand your ground. This whole country was founded on compromise. So, you know, it's just part of life. We compromise every day in everything we do. And like I said, the founding fathers made some hard compromises, and probably some right and some wrong, to make this work. And it's still here. And if we hadn't had that compromise, who knows where we'd be today. But so being willing to compromise and not having to always win. You know, I don't know if you've ever been around some folks that for me to win, you have to lose. That's not a good approach in governing, because you don't have everybody can't be the winner, but everybody will hopefully achieve something in an issue if you're willing to be open and listen to each other and work together. Again, no surprises. Another thing that's key to county government, and this goes back to from economic development to recruiting staff, is being confidential when it's called for. You do the public's business, and rightfully so, it is public, and as you know, about everything's public. But there are times confidentiality is so vitally important. I've seen hirings ruined because somebody, county that was trying to recruit somebody to be a manager and stressing confidentiality, and one commissioner said, well, I know somebody lives in that county, let me call and see what they think about it. Well, that ended that person's interest, because when that call was made and we got back to them, they're like, well, I've got this job and I've got this paycheck, I'm not going to risk it. Bye. So they withdrew the candidate they wanted, because somebody said, well, I know somebody that they can, let me give them a call, see what they think about this. Those are the type of things. Economic development can be a railroad project. It's sort of funny in economic development, so many people are like, why don't everybody want to come here? Well, it's your community, you love it. You think, why would you want to be here? Well, but these folks are looking to invest money or whatever, they've got opportunities. They're just looking for a reason to knock you off the list. You know, and if one of them is loose lips, I don't know why, I can't explain why they have to be so confidential, a lot of these issues, but it is core to them for some, and being able to do that. So keep confidentiality and respecting that. Again, about staff, I can't stress enough about communicating concerns. There will be issues that arise and maybe you don't understand, and maybe the staff makes a mistake, but just being mindful to communicate that in the proper way. And you'll get reward from that from the staff, because if they know you respect them and their role, they will return that to you. If they know that you utilize them that way and respect them that way, they will return that. The couple other things I just want to touch base on that can make for a strong board is, one, standing up for your staff. Sometimes staff may get attacked, and it's like I used to say, if somebody complained about an employee, or I'd say, if all you're going to do is just bash them, I'm going to defend them. Now, if you got issues with them, let's talk about that, and I'll dig into it and see what's going on. But if it's just personal attacks, you've got to stand up for staff. And not saying they're always right, but saying there's things you shouldn't allow in far as that. Other thing is, there will be rough board meetings. Y'all probably have never had one, but there are rough board meetings, and making sure you follow up with that and try to resolve issues as quickly as possible afterwards. I don't know, as a manager, the next day, Tuesday morning was always, county commissioner calls and says, what in the both saying last night, I can't believe he said that, or I can't believe they voted that. Well, I'm not sure you understood where they were coming from, or I'd say maybe you just want to talk to them, or sometimes I'd bring a chairman in and say, you may want to touch base with someone. I know they're all both good people, but I think they just got their wires crossed or something, because they're both passionate about it, and try not to let that fester, because it can grow. And it's sort of like family. You have it.
Never happens.
Yeah. No, you never did. You know,
Making eye contact.
We roll the videotape for you here today.
yeah. But I mean, it happened, and
I don't think that one was
I just thought y'all probably never did. But no, it happened, and it just, and that's why it's good to bring it up and talk about it periodically. Just people are people. And if you have the best people in the room, in the world, in the world in the room, you're going to have conflict. And with that comes the need to deal with that, and set it aside, and move on. And that can be one of the hardest things to do, because all of us, human nature is not to want to deal with that sometimes. And that's where we're bored of having a culture that we're going to deal with this and move on and be a positive for everyone involved. Again, I just want to touch on this. I don't know, I don't want to take too much time, but I just wanted to touch base on some of the things that I think are important for y'all, and talk about as the board and with the staff, and what can make you successful in that, and then to see if there's anything that we can answer, any questions or any thoughts regarding that, because I know we want to set aside time to review the survey responses. Denise.
I appreciate it. I think it's always good to have reminders to know that, it happens everywhere. Sometimes helps too.
And sometimes that is a good thing, just to realize you're not alone. I used to go to managers' meetings so I could leave and say, well, at least I'm not so-and-so.
At least I'm not there. Look, we do that at the things,
That's right.
Dinner a few weeks ago, we're all like, at least we don't have, what was it? No, I'm just kidding. What county was it?
Who was it that forgot to the fist fight?
But that, if you ever watched it.
Look, his greeting to me, I went to a board meeting, it was NC's board meeting last year, and I walk in, and his greeting to me was, have you seen the video? And I was like, LaRose.
Pull up Caldwell County.
LaRose.
Caldwell County Board.
He goes, have you seen the video? And I was like, no, and he had it queued up. I'm like, we're not running on this, sir.
They show it.
Mike LaRose, he was so happy to show me his video.
It wasn't one of those two old men wrestling around. They were.
No, like he threw a punch, like that was, yeah.
In a board
meeting, over a budget issue.
Big stuff, it was really big.
It was an intense moment, and it was on YouTube, and it was covered by all the things.
And then a third commissioner's up to.
I did look at it, and I was like, told Donnie, I said, at least we're not Caldwell County.
That's right. There you go. There you go.
No, it helps to know that you're not alone, though.
Yeah, it is. This being really my first full year on the board, it is a lot to you guys' perception of what goes on. And then when you get elected and you start getting up to speed with what's actually going on and all the things that the state requires you to do, and then what is it that you're really allowed to do is totally different what the public perception is. And that's one of the things that early on that we said that we really needed to communicate better, because that was one of the big problems of Gates County, is that we didn't really communicate out why, right, or what we were doing, because a lot of the things when I first came on, I was sitting with Jonathan and Emily, and they were kind of starting to kind of get me up to speed with some things, and we were having our one-on-one discussions about stuff, and I had met Ryan at that point in time, and so we're all working on this. I was like, well, everything that I was kind of, we should work on, we are working on. So that's great. I said, so what we should do is start to put this out there, and that's where we were fortunate enough to bring on Renee this year, and that was actually probably one of the best things that we did outside of the finance director. so that that was a good thing as far as starting to get that out there and started to post and creating that Facebook page, because Facebook is the public forum now, right? That is the modern Times Square, and so doing that and putting those type of things out there so that way people understand. And now you're starting to, you see that transition within our county where a long time the county commissioner board was taking a lot of heat from the general public because the general public just didn't know. And now they have a place to go look and see what are they doing, and they reach out and they talk to each one of us of what we got going on. They're an ear for the community to listen to see what's kind of going on. When we started going down the path of what we want to do as far as the zoning for if any data center company ever came to the county and wanted to say, hey, y'all got a lot of land and it's very inexpensive. We want to buy this, and what do we do to deal with that? And so the county really came out because we put out there, hey, we're talking about this. If you want to give input, here's your chance.
We
And
gave some input.
they gave some
We had feedback.
But you know what? That's good because we got the feedback, we had the hearing, and we took our advice from Miss Lisa, and so did what she asked us to do, and we moved on down the road with that. And after that, you had about another week or two of folks kind of putting some stuff out there, but after that was all gone. And so I think that a lot of the things that we've done this past year is really good. A lot of things was building our own board and being able to communicate with one another and all that. And yeah, did we have disagreements? Yeah, we did, but that's okay. Disagreement is a good thing.
Yeah.
I sit on several boards, and one of the things that on the ones that I run, I say if we disagree in here, that means that we're actually doing our job. If we all sit in here going, yep, I agree with him, and yep, I agree with him, then why are we here?
Right.
And so, but the only thing is that once you disagree, you work your disagreements out.
Mm-hmm.
And after the disagreements are worked out and the final say has been had, you all have to come out of that room and go, I support this. I mean, I agree with it, but I do support it because this is the will of the board. And then you just move forward. And so I appreciate this past year, and I appreciate our county manager kind of educating me along the way with some things and what I can and can't do. And we have a young board overall.
Yeah.
And so I think we've been very blessed to have a very experienced county manager to kind of help guide us along the way and what we can and can't do.
We've had a good year.
Yes, we
I think
have.
it's
It's not saying, but we've had,
Yeah.
I've got a whole scorecard of
Yes.
things
Yeah,
to share.
and I think we can all say that we've had different votes that didn't go our way
Yeah.
on different things, but overall,
Yeah, you said
we claim it, we own it, we move on, and we work together. I think this year we're in a different place now than we were this time last year, for sure,
Yeah, for sure.
in a very good way.
And next year, we're going to have one, probably one new county commissioner on the board, and because Jonathan decided that he's not running, so we'll have a new for his seat. But I still see it being the same thing. It's going to be when that person comes in, they're wanting to get up to speed and realize what you can and can't do as a county commissioner, and then we'll keep on rolling down the road. And we got a lot of things out in front of us, a lot of good momentum that we have as a county, and we just got to keep capitalizing on the momentum that we have and stay out in front of it.
I think also an important thing that we do, and it's essential that we do, is that presentation and also bringing the facts to our constituents. When our constituents know the facts on the issues that we're dealing with, and when they have the opportunity to engage, then it gives them a sense of security because they know it's not based on emotion, it's not based on opinion, it's based on fact. And that's very essential when you get anything done in the county. And also presentation, our decorum, and our respect for each other, and also our professionalism, as Neil was talking about earlier. That's very critical. And not just for commissions, but for departments, because presentation is the outside, and even our citizens, they're observing. And what they're observing is going to determine if they do business in Gates County, if they decide to work in Gates County. It's going to reflect our culture is going to reflect what we receive. If we give out negativity, we're going to receive negative results.
Yeah.
But we have a positive, factual culture, which, you know, we're looking out for our citizens, but yet still we basing things on facts. Then, you know, I see the course being very successful. And we have done that. And I'm thankful also for our county manager, because, you know, a lot of things I don't know. A lot of things we all don't know. His expertise gives us another perspective and also more information so we can make a better decision. So it's a team atmosphere that we have here. The departments, y'all very efficient. Y'all make sure that, you know, day-to-day operations is run, you know, very productive. And so all that comes together because the bottom line, you know, bottom line to me are the taxes. And taxes here in Gates County, taxes, property taxes is big. So in my mind, I want to ease that. You know, I want us to ease that. But that's going to be determined if people come to Gates County to invest in us, or if we invest into our own, you know, retaining our own and also recruiting others. Because, you know, I'm about economic growth, and I'm also about small businesses, because here in Gates County we're blessed to have a beautiful scenic, it's a bedroom community, not a lot of industry. I believe both can coexist. I believe that we can have small industry, small businesses, and yet still have the appeal of our life that I grew up all my life, you know, hunting and fishing and nature. That's what attracts people to Gates County also. So, you know, presentation, you know, on our part as commissioner, actually on everybody's part, is going to determine the pathway that our constituents view us as well as our neighbors.
And surprising as it may be, as small as Gates County is, I met everybody when we came on the board together. I didn't know any of them except, Forsyth coached me as a 9-year-old, but other than seeing him that year, I hadn't met any of them prior to serving with them. The board I came on with and the current board, so.
You just don't know me.
We did, but we all, we do, the different parts of the county do operate so separately at times. But I didn't know any of them. I had a phone conversation with him.
When he,
yeah, I didn't know who he was, didn't know his name, didn't know any of that. So it was kind of interesting, like being so small that we really didn't have any of that before.
Are y'all ready to go forward for talk about your survey questions?
Does anybody else
I'll say, does anybody have a county manager or for anybody?
It's good information. That was very good information. I think we all take something right.
And I have to say that all this past year, Brad's been a trooper, because I think with his department, we probably asked him the most questions out of anybody. And he's took the punches and ran with it, so good job.
All right, so you'll see in front of you is your feedback from your questions, and thank you. We've got all 5 commissioners participated with that, and I always think this is really good. Number one, I think it's a way to hear from all of you, and I think when we talked a lot this morning about perspectives and understanding where folks are coming from, so this gives you an opportunity to kind of see where your fellow commissioners are coming from and what their perspective is, kind of all nice and pretty in this. But so what we're going to do is I'm going to we'll review each of them. We'll kind of review each of the commissioners' kind of feedback that for each of those questions, and then just pause, because really I think what we get so much about is us not talking as much, but you all talking amongst yourselves. So I'll pause after one, and then please love to hear your feedback if that kind of includes everything or something not included, is, you know, whatever your feedback is on that. So the first one, a little bit different than last year's question, but what have you learned over the past year in your role as a county commissioner? So I've learned that the board and I have learned that a resolution is not enforceable because it's not a law. In most legislative contexts, a resolution is not a law because it typically does not require the president's or governor's signature and lacks the binding permanent force of statutory law. Over the past year, I've learned how to navigate the dynamics of a board that disagrees, granting space for opposing views and for conversations at the table that I previously had been told should be behind closed doors. It cultivates a new way to govern that allows for more transparency. Patience is a virtue, and the differences between working in the private sector with flexibility and the public sector where things move a whole lot slower. It's being reinforced that even at the local level, bureaucratic functions are slow to change. We don't interact with counties in our district maybe as much as we probably should. And then being consistent is key to setting priorities. So what do y'all think about that? Any feedback? Pretty right on. Certainly all of you should at least identify one of those should be yours, but
I really believe that regionalization is key, especially by us being a small county, small population. So to work with other counties is very essential. And we have seen a lot of that. We have, did some of it, but we need to do it on a grand scale because our resources, are limited, but together, we're much stronger, we're much better, more efficient. I like what we're doing with EMS, partnering with the counties. I like what we're doing also with waste management. But again, I guess I love economics. I want to see us partner economically with some of these counties, especially Hereford County in particular, because they have a lot going on. And the chair asked, about that with me, and maybe that's something that we need to consider. But yes, regionalization, working with other counties, it's a good thing.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Very good statement with it. Coming into this as a new commissioner, we can handle this a little bit earlier. Is you have this perception that things work a certain way, and you do have to be patient with how things develop. And I appreciate Mr. Sauer being patient with me as I was starting to push pretty hard at the very beginning of things, and he and I had that sit-down discussion to talk about things and how it you need to let it develop. And sometimes if you're pushing too hard, then you're not going to get what you really want out of the deal. And so I do appreciate that. And I also agree, as far as what Brian was saying, is that I do believe that in order for the county to do what it needs to do in the future, we probably are going to have to regionalize on some things and be part of that. Because if you look at what we've done already and where we're partnered with other counties, it's immensely benefited Gates County. Not only are we getting better end product with the service, but it's costing Gates County a whole lot less than what I've done if we had to go out on our own. The most recent one was the 911 call center, and the feedback at the very beginning is that people are proud of Gates County. We want to have everything in Gates County, but sometimes being proud is limiting your ability to move things forward. And so once the county commissioners did that, and when it first happened, you had everybody that was a part of dealt with 911 on a daily basis with all the first responders. I'm not going to like this. I'm not going to like this. But as soon as they started to interact with you and you all went live, you could sit every one of them down in front of me right now. It's the best thing we ever did. Don't know why we didn't do it sooner.
really.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly. And so that was
we're
just
gonna have a
absolutely
shift
great.
on feedback on that here shortly.
Yeah.
I've heard some things in the past 2 weeks.
All right, well, you did,
But
you're
we're gonna,
always
no,
doing
it's
something.
something we need to bring up, yeah, that we need to, yeah.
But you
Glad
did
you
what
said
you
that,
want,
though.
right? So that's something that I think that we do need to look forward in the future is that and see how we can work with other counties to.
And And host, like, partner with other counties, but bring it here as the center. Everything we're partnering with at this point and collaborating with other counties for are in other counties. We have things in Perquimans, we have things in Chowan, we have things in different places. We're not hosting any of these services. We want to host something, I think. We kind of bring it to Gates County while partnering with people. That's fun.
Okay. I know you're making good notes too, but I'm trying to jot down some notes. But you've been a phenomenal clerk, and she's usually really good with making, doing all your notes. But I'll jot some as well. Number 2, what do you believe are the 3 major successes of the county during your time on the board? Broadband expansion with 97% broadband access for our residents, housing, built 4 homes through community block grant, and numerous constituents have benefited from the home improvements offered. Water, wastewater infrastructure, partner with green engineering to revamp our water and wastewater infrastructure. The completion of the personnel policy, better communication between staff and leadership, and seeing the fruition of a social media page and more transparency to the people. Broadband, water meter replacement, and the personnel policy. Understanding what we are doing regarding the water system, going from the planning to the motion stage and letting contracts. Pushing other boards of the county to not always do things like they've always done, while understanding we all have budgets and must adapt. Getting through the reval year and educating our citizens. Restraining growth of the property tax and holding back on increases during the revaluation year. In terms of the overall budget, being frugal and holding costs to minimal increases. Engaging the school board with difficult issues regarding excess facilities and the need to potentially downsize. So any feedback on that? Does that pretty much cover your successes, or?
Decent amount of overlap.
Our school board issue is still a continuing issue, right? And, I think we hit a pretty good milestone and a pretty good, reflection point with them, over this last month and dealing with issues and things, and it goes down to sometimes you just gotta have that sit-down discussion and air your differences and where your frustrations out, and it allows you to move forward. Having arguments is not a bad thing. That is all gracious. It's just that,
In the right place.
yeah, in the right place, in the right time. And so, I think that they are seeing the light of what they need to do, and they understand that they have to make hard choices. But at the end of the day, that's what the citizens elected us all for, is to make hard choices. And, I think we've done some pretty good ones this year.
Also, I think in this environment, there are economic challenges for all of us, especially marginalized citizens whose income may not be as great. So I think the things that we have done, such as doing the reevaluation process where we, stay very neutral on the taxes, I think that benefit. The 3D block grant that benefit. Different things that benefit our constituents, because Gates County, if you look at the salary, for most people it's not that great. So anything that we can implement that could help ease the burden of our constituents within our fiscal responsibility, I think it's a good thing. So I'm very pleased how the board have addressed certain issues dealing with the community, economically, dealing with, making sure that things are, the burden is not as heavy.
Definitely.
Well, just on a personal note, I was listening to the school board meeting we had last week, but I think it's important to know you can't ignore each other. I mean, that's I think sometimes they probably want to ignore us, but you got to push forward and meet and find solid ground. I appreciate y'all's efforts in trying to push that forward. And that was a good thing.
Madam Chair, if you allow me, I'd like to just hand out the dashboard since you saw it on my stack, because you all have just talked about the whole first column of the.
I got so excited, y'all.
And I know you couldn't have seen it, but,
I carry this thing.
well, I got last year's too.
Well, I'm gonna show you here. I have 23, 24, and 25.
Oh,
So
gosh.
they
Yeah.
stay in my bag.
Yeah, I told him he needed to put copyright dates on all of this. Because they just, I've kept them all.
Oh, this is the old one. This is last year's. Yeah.
Here's the-
I was like, hold on, I see these numbers.
You go ahead with number 3. You wanna wait?
Yeah, I think reading it.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I sort of go left to right, and what you all summed up.
Nice
I
to meet
mentioned
you.
the school board.
Sorry, I was reading
If ever there was some heavy lifting, it was your relationship with the school board. And as I went through the minutes from some of the last meetings, I pulled the minutes. I had highlighted it down there on May 21st. Because, you know, y'all had a budget meeting set for the school board on April 16th, and it was a no-show.
Yes.
And the very next meeting, each one of the 5 commissioners put together an epistle of concerns about that lack of follow-through. And, but again, I think that set the stage for asking difficult questions, putting your priorities out there, and again, that's all I'll say. Your responses on the survey really reflect the heavy lifting that the board was doing. And I know it's near the bottom on the left, but your achievement on the revaluation was phenomenal. And you could have left it at a revenue neutral tax rate, but you went an extra penny that allows you to do a few more priority things. And you also gave the schools some of the extra things they were asking for, the lunch program and the technology.
So you can compare the list that you have compiled versus what we all said.
It's just, y'all did a lot in those first 2 survey questions that, and what I've learned in small counties, a year is like a dog year. These guys have just worked 7 years as county
That's a
commissioners.
lot.
So you said 7 years just came off my life, is what I just heard.
A lot of progress for a
Twice
year.
interpreted, okay?
It's been a lot of progress, but I would also say that progress is not possible without all of our department heads.
Yes.
I agree. I agree.
So we just set the vision. Sometimes we kind of get a little mixed up and get a little too in the weeds, and we got to kind of make to pull this back out of it.
We
But
have a phenomenal team.
yes, thank y'all very much for everything.
Well, yeah, we got the whole team coming in after a while. It's just, I know you got a couple of problem children that need to help me out. We got like the data center.
It's okay, we have that.
Without Lisa's guidance or Brad on the infrastructure and doing all the budget.
I don't know.
But I don't want to, go ahead and get your questions, Warren.
Okay.
See if we recognize.
Oh, okay. Well, you interject then anytime, and we can kind of tag team on both of these. Okay, so what do you believe are the 3 major challenges facing the county? Economic development, post and secondary education for adults, and fiscal management of public school financials. Funding and a low tax base will continue to be my first answer. Seeking businesses to come in that will flow with the heart of Gates County while honoring the agricultural history of the county and the challenges facing a declining population. We have limited funds, and a penny only gains about $100,000. Our resources are limited, and we must stretch the dollar. Uncontrolled growth by developers, building houses with demands on the county that are not necessarily available. Resizing our school system with the potential to downsize, dealing with bureaucratic functions within the county, government that seems unwilling to adjust to the needs of the community, and the lack of economic development, inflation with the projects that we already have, funds to complete, and again, we see the school system. So, any feedback on that?
I think education and training going forward is going to be critical. Making sure that our people, our citizens are prepared for any growth that we are blessed to see. Making sure that they have the workforce training so they can be viable in the workplace. Make sure they have the education, if it's post-education or secondary education, so they can be prepared. Because a smart workforce is a great workforce. That's what industry is looking for. So investing in our people, bringing it to the forefront, working with my future NC, working with other entities that's going to help promote the growth intellectually for our constituents is going to be very critical, especially in AI, where AI is already here. So if we can prepare, I'm preparing my grandson now for AI, because what's going to happen, you're going to need people who can manage the AI, people who can actually work behind the scenes, because the job force is being reduced nationally.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I also think that as we have a committee put together that's looking at what are the things, what is the plan for Gates County over the next 5, 10, 15 years? And I think the committee is going to really ferret out some pretty good discussion points for us to talk about the plan for the future. So I'm looking forward for that. And we actually have a school board member on that committee. So I think that's a good thing for us.
See, he's jumped to column 2. And we have not talked.
See, that's like, we are unified, y'all.
But the strategic planning, I think this is the group that's providing the energy, and then they're trying to bring in as many people as they can under the tent to help put it all together. And one little neat story, just because you all don't read the papers, one of the biggest, I'll say blowouts, because the press isn't here with the schools, was over the daycare program they operate. And they came to us in November. I don't know about y'all, but I was surprised when they were asking for $50,000 to supplement them so they could run it for a couple of months and then shut it down. And after some back and forth, with the commissioners agreeing to provide some financial aid, but with restrictions, with guardrails. Ultimately, they rejected the county's offer, but that public discourse brought forward a local business person who was already in the daycare profession and agreed, and I don't know any of the particulars, but my understanding is she is now operating in the Gatesville Elementary School and is maintaining that as a viable entity without any money from the county. So it was, I know for all the commissioners, a very painful.
And paying the lease.
And really, at the end of the day, the best viable option came forward. Because anytime you can do something on the private side and somebody makes some money and we get a little bit of tax money from it, that's always a great thing.
And truly a blessing, Ms. Alexandra, she's even growing now. I mean, her enrollment is growing. I had a conversation with her. She expected to reach capacity in a couple of months. So that private-public partnership paid off.
Yes, it did.
Paid off.
That's wonderful.
But the flip side is, 2 years ago, the Board of County Commissioners, at the request of the schools, gave them a one-time appropriation to help replenish the fund balance. The commissioners gave $828,000. That was in June of '23. We learned in October of this past year that they were down to about $108,000 in fund balance, and we had a copy of their auditor's cover letter that was depicting the situation. And when the daycare situation popped up and we started looking at their audits, over a period of 5 years, they had subsidized the daycare with $440,000 of funds that came from their general fund. So one of the last actions of the governing body in Gates County for the year 2025 was to send a letter to the state auditor to come in and ask for some assistance to ensure that we're getting the best potential fiscal management with the public resources. And that's not to mention that all of this really started when there was a conversation on a cold day last March about the possibility of consolidating some of the campuses, because we have so many schools and a declining ADM. So, like I said, these folks have been all lifted a lot the last little bit.
Well, I'll add a association sidebar piece on that is, you know, certainly Gates County has challenges with your school board, but you know, as Neil indicated, others have certainly too. So part of that, I hope some of you took advantage of the educational lunch and learn kind of seminars that were over 5 weeks, that because I thought they were great. And where that came from was from counties, just like you saying, you know, we support education, we support, we know it's right for our citizenry, but we're getting lots of requests and lots of expectations that we just don't understand, and we don't understand the school funding piece, and we need some help for that. So that's where that came from, was from counties.
Learned a lot.
Similar to Gates, that just said, very similar to you, we're trying to, we support it, we're just trying to understand it, and it's just being too much, so.
I think that a good indication that we can always tell what we're going through is happening everywhere is, we were doing it, I went to Renee, I want to say it was Renee that I went to, and I was like, well, how convenient that we're having issues with the school board, and CACC now has this coming in.
Yeah.
So it seems like, and this isn't, it's not the first time it's happened over the past 3.5 years where we're having a struggle with something, but then there's some kind of education coming out from NCACC which says they're hearing it from multiple counties. Because I know you don't have a magnifying glass on Gates County saying, they can help with this right now. So it has to be coming from all over the state, which is encouraging that, I mean, while it's not fun, it's helpful to know we aren't alone.
Others in your Well, and I also say that just as there's other issues, because right now the issue is education, but there will be other things too. Be sure that you share your voice on that, and because that's what we're here for, is to provide those resources. And chances are, if it's an issue or a need for Gates County, you're not the only person. We need to hear that. So, you know, as other topics come up, whether it's education related or workforce related or whatever.
The social media training that's been coming out when we were at the educating government leader, whatever training, was kind of right on point. Where we've been trying to manage how to do things, and so the fact that it's so heavy on that says it's happening everywhere.
And just going to the NCACC function and having that conversation with other commissioners and what they are dealing with and what they have going on, just that interaction and that networking in and of itself has been good. And you know, I was, when I first came on and I first started talking to people, they said, well, Gates County really hadn't been participating in a lot of this.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, seems like where you go for as a county commissioner to draw in help to the county. And you know, okay, so now we know where we need to start at and how we need to continue to work in that direction. But just being able to network with other people, and you heard that as we were walking through and talking with different county commissioners from, there is a big issue across the entire state with funding for schools, and nobody thinks that teachers get paid way too much, right? So the money's not going there.
Right.
And so between the regulations that the state has that they have to comply with, to just all the staffing requirements above the teachers that has to be, you know, above what actually takes to operate a school, is just absolutely dragging down and inflating the cost of school systems across the state. And the state really needs to take a hard look at what do we really need to have to educate our children for the future. And I think that will go on.
Yeah. Need versus luxury.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm so thankful for the NCACC providing, you know, courses and seminars and workshops, sessions, and like Commissioner Berman said, it's something that we have just recently been taken advantage of. I believe it started the last administration, it was started then, Dr. Chairwoman, we started again to interact with the NCACC. And when I first became commissioner, we started to interact, and I find it very beneficial to me. And it's good to have that feeling knowing that you can tap the resources in Raleigh from the NCACC, and have the information, and have the help, assistance, quality of life. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's a good resource, so be sure to use it, because that's what we're here for. So if there's anything that is needed, and you've got a very active chairman with the association, but
I'm sure
she'll let the folks
I
know.
overuse them sometimes.
So yeah, that's what we're here for.
And one more item I'd just like to touch on, because the county commissioners take a lot of grief because folks think they're being too critical of the Board of Education. And the very top thing on the top left, and it's easy to forget things like this, but last January, one of the first items of business for the board was the board supported the 3 lottery projects. Those funds are appropriated through the county, received from the state, spent by the school system, but that wouldn't happen without the board's complete cooperation and support. Where we ran into a little bit of a buzzsaw was back between June and August, when invoices started coming in, and we were not getting responses from our local school board about the status of the projects. When we contacted DPI, the group that sends us the money, wires it to us so we can pay on the projects, we were informed by DPI that the schools had started projects before they had authorization from DPI through their design and review process. And after a period of months where I couldn't get, I'm glad the press is not here, but I couldn't get a phone call or an email or a meeting with the superintendent to talk about this, because I've got the finance director saying, Mr. Senator, we're not paying this bill unless the money is wired to the county. So after 3 months of that, I shared that in a work session like this with the board. And from there, the board started asking questions, and the board started making calls. And it wasn't that we were trying to draw fire for the school system. It's just for them to finish those projects and pay those vendors who were in many cases 60 to 90 days in the rears on their payments. We had to have some relief there, and the board did take the ball and run with it. And I'm sorry that was painful for the schools, but we can't look, well, and William will tell you, the auditors love to write us up if we don't report correctly on these lottery funds. And if we're not getting cooperation and sharing information with the schools, our hands are tied, because the money has to run through our financials. So when they're asked, well, what have you done positive for the schools? Well, the commissioners can say, well, here's almost $14 million of funds that the commissioners pulled down to help on these renovations and additions, that you all could have made a lot more painful for them. And instead, you all did everything you could to roll out the red carpet and grease the skids. So I'm sorry.
No, that's good. No, that's good to include that. That's relevant. That makes perfect sense. Number 4, to tag on, so we kind of said what are our challenges, and now we're saying, what do you think your board should play in addressing these challenges? So we should recruit and retain industry, lobby the federal and state government for shovel-ready economic impact projects, and ensure our citizens are workforce ready. We should implement My Future NC for our constituents. We should have greater stewardship, more collaboration, fiduciary conscious, and strategic planning. It is the job of the board to be good stewards of the fund in the county, and with that comes a responsibility to seek the right opportunities for growth and for our community. It all goes hand in hand. We set the vision with the manager and county staff working towards achieving the vision and moving it into action. We need to be policymakers and set expectations and not try to stick our hands into the function while holding staff accountable. Keep pushing for the right economic growth for Gates County and keep pushing to complete projects that are funded in a timely manner. Work together with the school board, but also hold the Board of Education accountable for their actions and for funding. So anything to add with that? Clearly, many of you are thinking on the very same wavelength.
Yeah.
5 different minds, but clearly you're thinking very similar on that one.
You can tell that we all talk.
One thing, it's not a bad thing, but then again, it's not really a good thing. I guess it's based on what's happening. When I'm looking at the time and manner, some things we gotta take our time.
Yeah.
Some things we got to make sure that we're making the right decision and not just make a decision just to please others that may not be patient. And like Commissioner Barron said, well, I don't know if you said or you read, Denise, about patience and virtue. You know, and in some cases, patience is a virtue because you don't want to get too far ahead and then, oh no, going in the wrong direction and have to bring things back. But then again, you know, time constraints is important. That's why I said it could be a good or bad thing. It's all based on what's at hand.
I think, government was designed to work slow for accountability purposes. But it's also, if you're not cautious, you can take advantage of that and extend it far longer than it needs to be. So I think that's where the balance is the required pace by government naturally, like I said, is slow. We meet every month. Like, you can't make decisions. We could call a meeting, of course we could, but government's designed to be slow. It's supposed to be slow. But to me, I just think that means, not stalling, making sure that we stay aware and stay on top of it. I'm not sure where that came from, if they're here or not, but to ask for clarification, which I guess is up to those two, being honest. But I would assume the timely manner is that we're just staying conscious of the fact that we need to be pushing things forward and not getting complacent and letting them get forgotten.
Well, I'd like to share a thought on that first bullet under question 4, where it states that we should lobby the federal and state government. And I'm going to just stop there, but one of Neil's first points he brought up this morning, I wasn't sleeping, Neil, I was taking notes. And you talked about the tax reform initiative, and there are states that want to eliminate property taxes, and for counties, if we're not careful, it'll be the small counties like this that take it in the shorts. So the General Assembly, who is the parent in this relationship, has put together a committee, and as soon as that came out when we got the news from Kevin Leonard and his team at the association, I pulled up a list of all those legislators that are on that committee. And we are not represented. I'm sorry. But we've got 4 folks from Wake County, 4 folks from Mecklenburg County, and now, again, I brought these if you want to share them. We got bumped up to a Tier 2 county now. If anybody should be a Tier 1 county, it should be Gates County.
Yeah.
And Pitt County, but Pitt County is now a Tier 2.
No, it's a Tier 1.
It's a Tier 1.
It's a Tier 1.
Well, on this list of legislative representation, the only Tier 1 county is Cumberland County. And Cumberland County's got Fort Bragg, Fayetteville State,
Methodist College.
And
Well, there's a reason for that if you ask them.
Yeah.
They say it's because areas like Pitt County and Fayetteville, they have student populations and military for Fayetteville where their addresses are not residents of the counties that they're in, so they are not counting their salaries because they're not residents due to their license.
I just think the reform needs to involve a road test and a site visit, because they've got the economic engines that generate the sales tax that allow them to do things like pay teacher supplements and provide for bigger recreation facilities. And
Yeah.
But I just feel we're about to take a screwing in the worst way with the way this legislative committee's been, unless it can be amended.
It really should address the fact that how much money that they get brought into their county for sales tax. Because if you look how much money that Gates County brings in for sales tax, and you look how much money is generated by the county for property taxes, these other counties are getting millions upon millions upon millions in sales
Yeah.
taxes. And just like, it was one fellow that we were talking to at our last convention that we went to, that, our last training session that we went to, that he said that 1 cent increases their budget by $1 million.
Wow, I think it's Braxton. Looking at,
And I was
what's
going,
on
Yeah.
what in
Yeah.
the world? And we could drop 1 cent to the bottom line and said, here's an extra $1 million, but I don't know what
I think
we're
it
gonna
was
do.
wrong, they have food. Yeah.
So those type of things, it shouldn't just be what's your median income. Because our median income for our county, yeah, you know, it's doing okay, but it's because everybody leaves the county and works outside the county.
Yeah, no, I don't agree with their reason, I'm saying they have one. It's not a good one.
Yeah.
But it's just, we don't have a hospital here. We don't
Right.
have an urgent care here. We don't have primary doctors or dentists here.
Right.
And if we can't qualify as a tier one, I don't know who can. Not that I want Gates County to be the poster child, but we need our voice to be heard in these deliberations. So
Right.
anything we can do, if y'all would take it back to us, we probably have some commissioners here who would be willing to come and speak.
Because
Correct.
even if you have an LLC, like I own a business up in Chesapeake, all the taxes and everything is all in Chesapeake for that business.
Yep.
But because it's an LLC, all the K-1s and everything flow from me personally.
Yeah.
So that whole entire business, what it makes, gets credited to Gates County because of what shows on my tax form. And that ain't fair.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Most counties don't agree with the tier system unless they are already in
Yeah,
the
that is
tier.
messed up.
Currituck is another one that
Yeah,
they
if you're
have.
tier one.
I hear a lot of stuff from Currituck about their frustration, but, you know, on the flip side, you know, Pitt will be the first one to say, it all looks great, but like their hospital and university, none of that is tax-based.
Huh?
And it's all, there's no tax, it looks really good, but it's service-based, but no tax.
But those hospitals,
Yeah.
even though they're not tax-based,
Yeah,
everything it takes to operate that hospital
Yeah.
is. So, I mean, like, I do a lot of work for Centera. And so the millions of dollars of renovations that they do every year, all that is all taxed.
Yep.
So that's one of the things that, yeah, you can say that, but the driver is not really, that's just starts it. It's really everything else.
and the employees coming in,
Yeah.
dollars a day spent,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm not gonna argue it, I'm just saying that's their
Oh,
perspective.
yeah, this is kind of.
Yeah.
We're not gonna change it.
Yeah. But it is.
Okay, I'll stand down.
Well, no, I will tell you, you know, you shouldn't stand down, but I mean, it's others sharing your frustration, just with the accessibility.
Isn't that the one they consider your income, your unemployment, and your
Unemployment,
tax base per
and your
capita?
poverty rate, it's, and that's the part that you, poverty
We'll
rate's
get y'all
probably
the
better.
unemployment rates
Mhm.
better than.
Yep. So there's all those different factors and how those percentages go in there,
Yeah.
it's more than just,
I don't think it's good.
The formula needs to be shaken up a little bit, yeah.
yeah,
It can be very misleading.
It can.
yeah.
There need to be a few more qualitative measures.
Do y'all know if they pull this data from like census reports or is it individual reports?
I think they get it from the Department of Revenue.
Okay,
And it's on the financial side, and then the census.
okay.
Former Mayor Elton Winslow used to tell the story that when they used to apply for grants in Gatesville back in the 80s,
Mm-hmm.
Gatesville had the second highest per capita income of any municipality in the state, right behind Pinehurst. Because we only have 266 residents, and several of them are wealthy business people, or maybe some folks that truck up to Chesapeake didn't have good businesses. Gatesville was number 2 in the state for a
Wow.
period of time. So you can do a lot with statistics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Gatesville is an unsewered community, and we'd like to be able to apply for grants to help bring sewer to the, I doubt there are many county seats that are unsewered, but Gatesville is. And apparently one of their hiccups as they were going through their attempts to get capital funding was because they had that high per capita income, and they were disqualified from U.S. Farmers Home and now Rural Development,
Yeah.
things of that nature.
Yeah. I get it. Moving on, I flipped my stuff over, I'm reading number, we're on 5 now, right? We are moving along. What would you love, this is a good one. What would you like the county to be like in 20 years, and how do you plan for it? I'd like the county property taxes to be reduced and our sales tax revenue to increase. I love to see growth, more life, and a stronger sense of community. I love to see less food insecurity and options for access to medical care. Right now it lies in defining needs and seeking out-of-the-box opportunities for supplementing those needs in a rural community. We haven't had a new school built in my lifetime. To help Gates County, we need to invest in newer buildings that give opportunities and resources for future skills. A football field, a track, a new school would be great. We need a plan to fill the manager's shoes. He's a huge asset, but not a long-term fix. I would like Gates County, Gates County somewhat like it is with growth in housing, utilities as needed, and some commercial development for jobs. I would like to see fewer of our citizens that must drive outside of the community for jobs. And then, good old summary here, good old country living with a few more amenities like a grocery store and a car wash.
Second the car wash today. I'm like, can I drive to Elizabeth City after this and run through?
But again, you can see where you're very much on some of those thinking very similar, and you see some of your very different perspectives, but lots of similar thoughts. I'm gonna speed through a few of these because I want your manager to have time to kind of go through some of his because this stuff is really good. Number 6, how can the staff help the board meet objectives? The staff can help by being efficient, cut costs, maintain quality through outstanding service, and a positive outlook. This will attract and not repel industry from considering Gates County as a place for business. Listening to the public, being aware of growth coming and planning now for how to implement more efficient procedures to complete their duties once we grow. Keeping an eye out for grants specific to their fields. Many times the information about those opportunities comes from staff. Complying with the votes of the commissioners and performing the functions which they are hired. Support the county manager with the task as he assigns them, work efficiently and ethically, and understand the vision of the commissioners and where we are going. Build the long-term plan and tell the board what their needs are. Staff need to speak up and be open so we are well aware of how to support. So any feedback on those last 2? If it says what it says, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think it says what it says, but I mean, I think it's important that as far as, you know, this year being my first year and starting to build those relationships with the staff, and they're starting to kind of talk to me a little bit more about what their needs are in the department, and maybe that's something that we didn't put in the budget, or we changed the budget last year and how it affected them, and then just being open, just talking about that, and you know, because we don't know what we don't know, and the opportunity that they have, especially like in this afternoon session, as we go forward through our budget session, if the staff just didn't agree with some decisions that we made in last year's budget, well, then maybe that part of the budget that maybe got cut this past year maybe goes to the top of the list, because they were troopers, they dealt with it. So let's talk about how we can help them out. And so that way we know when we're setting this budget up and we're going through that last final round and we're going back and forth with William and what we need to do and everything. And he's a musician when it comes to the numbers. I mean, I don't know how he was able to work it out this past year, but he did a great job with it. And so we need to have that knowledge, because if we don't have the knowledge of what's going on in their departments and their true needs in their departments and their asks, then we will not give it unless we know about it. And so that's where I think that discussion is really good. It comes from.
And I like the feedback that we've got. I feel like having an environment where the staff is comfortable in saying that something's not going right, they need to change. I know in the past in the county there is, the reason I ran was as a county employee, staff could not say anything and be heard. So I think that our job is to make sure that we cultivate a space that we are obviously available, like approachable, and that we're going to listen and we're going to hear them. And I think a lot of them have great ideas and have things that they would like to see done. And finally being asked makes a difference, but actually hearing what they're saying and taking it into consideration, that falls on us. The staff does a lot, but we have to set the tone for them to be able to come. And I think that we've shifted a lot in the past year or so with the board in that manner, but just continuing to be aware of tone and again, listen more. We might have a reason why we can't do that, but hear what they're asking first.
Yeah, and it's a two-way street. We realize that we have to engage and have discussions so that way they feel comfortable, letting us know that they may not agree with something. Some of the best decisions that comes out of my company is where a lower level employee comes in and sits at, hey, Nate, you got a few minutes? Yeah, come on, sit down. And he sit down, we have a good conversation. He tells me, hey, I got this issue. And I was like, all right, that's some really good points. Let me take it back to senior leadership and see what they say. And we've actually changed one of our policies because of it. And it fosters just good environments and people working together to know that, hey, if I disagree with a county commissioner, I can go talk to them and let them know that what I disagree about and why. And if it's a good point and the other commissioners agree on it, ain't not a written stone around here. We can move and do something different.
Right. Absolutely. And finally, number 7. What is important to you and your constituents? Affordability and property taxes are important to our constituents. I'm working towards supporting small business and strengthening our economy by encouraging economic growth, transparency, and keeping the small town neighborly feel of Gates County while helping relieve the tax burden from our property owners. I grew up in Gates County. We want to maintain the rural small town environment with friendly neighbors and support. We want to be the small community that everyone wishes that they could move to. Being responsible with taxpayer dollars and not spending money on projects or land that are poorly researched or justified. Country living, low taxes, and education. So, any feedback on that? That's kind of a good summary, and again, you see lots of continuity with that. The next slide, just got some upcoming dates, because we are always here to support the association and the many opportunities that are there. We hope that you as commissioners will take advantage of. There will be district meetings, which I understand will be a little bit different this year, but the one for this district, which is the 1, 2, 7, and 8, will be in Halifax County, March 11th. So my understanding that's going to start, and then there'll be a morning session, and then I think it's like 4 hours, but there will be a time when the districts will break out individually. So when you talked about meeting with other counties, great opportunity, and Halifax is not super far away. So keep that on your calendar if you're available. Also, Hunter County's prepared. There's one session April 9th in Wake County, another in Craven on the 30th. I personally haven't went through that. Is your county, anybody went through that?
So we had years ago, I think we had our emergency management director at the time had gone through it, I believe. I could be wrong. But we have actually talked to Renee, and she's put it out there for the commissioners and certain staff that it may be kind of applicable to see if they want to go.
Try to get as many as we can.
We're looking at the April 9th.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I hear from other counties, I haven't personally been through it, Neil may have been through it, but I hear really good things from other counties about the experience. So I can't.
And I can say I had last, again, one of the after hours couch sessions talking to somebody, Western NC had mentioned that it was because of the 100 counties prepared that they've been through that they had an idea of where to start with Helene. And that was a huge comment. They're like, I had to go back to, okay, what were we taught? Because I don't know what to do.
Yeah, that's
you know,
great.
Helene was so overwhelming. So I thought that was a pretty powerful statement about the training itself.
Yeah, I hear fabulous things. I remind folks about steering committees. Anybody's welcome to be on a steering committee, but if you don't want to be on the, or you don't choose to, then all of them are open. They're all virtual at this point. There are some that are in person and virtual, but everything's virtual. So if there's a topic that you just want to pop in and listen to, all of you are welcome, whether you're on the steering committee, like formally or not. If you're just interested in education and you want to pop in and listen to it, great opportunity to get some information while you don't have to travel or do anything hard to get it. Just a reminder about county advocacy days, which will be in Wake County, June 8th and 9th. Of course, annual conference will be coming up the August 20th and 22nd. You've got a phenomenal clerk. She'll keep you in the loop on all this kind of stuff. And then I just remind commissioners that I know you all have lots of emails and lots of stuff that comes through, and we try to keep you informed and send lots of information. But if you do nothing else, there is an email, an update on Fridays that comes through. So if you don't read any of the other stuff and you're just like, only one time a week I can commit to this because I've got so much going on, just look at that one, because all the stuff I just said and then others is always going to be there. So from an efficiency perspective, you can also catch up on that one Friday email, anything that's going on regarding advocacy, stuff going on with the General Assembly policy type stuff. So that's a really good one-stop shop to kind of get your information on that. And then on the back you just have the contacts of both Neil and I got into your manager's time for all of his great stuff, but we had the time after lunch that we can.
Or if we could push through, maybe have a bunch of little bit.
Absolutely, we could do however you will, because we have the time after lunch for it's conversation. So we left that kind of just wide open on how you all wanted to work through that as far as the board. So we've got definitely time. You can go through this through lunch. You can, however you want it. We've got till 2 o'clock. So while we had some structure stuff that Neil and I have done up to this point, the rest of the time here is yours. So however you want to do that, we can roll with whatever that is. I'm sure I did bring a few extra of the county map books. I'm guessing every commissioner here has it, but I'm going to give it to you anyways. And if you don't have one, then you can just give it to a department head or share it. I do think this is a phenomenal tool that we put out. And then also, Neil talked about earlier our issue with the property tax. So I'm also going to include this as well. This was the most recent steering committee with property tax. This was some of the information that they shared. And so I just brought those as well to share with you so that you can have that. That's it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I really agree too. Say, I have 2 or 3 if you wait. I keep one in the car, one in my bag, one on my desk. Here you go. You're welcome. It is probably my favorite piece of things that comes out every year.
Yeah, that's like perfect timing, and then she rolls in.
Yes.
But Mr. Manager, I'll kind of defer to you on how you want to proceed going forward, because we have plenty of time, but.
Well, I'd like to see us, if we could, at least initially push through some things, and then if we wanted to have our box lunches and but I would like to highlight a few things, especially on the second column. Because again, this board, we have wrestled with big issues, little issues, but they've kept their focus on getting us to the goal line. And I think when you figure they've initiated that strategic planning, we did go through a review of the rules and operating procedures, and that was molded was a really strong team effort, board and department heads. They're in the middle of the public health target. And you all may have heard us discuss our fluoride challenge. That's where we're number one. Highest level fluoride in the state of North Carolina, naturally occurring, but it's not something for Crest students.
I do like to say, for a water system our size, I feel like that matters, just because that limits us a little bit. Number, we don't want to be one in that category.
Right. Anyhow, we are really digging into that issue, and the board, you know, we had tough work sessions in August, September, October, where they really were, they'd have long half-day or full-day work sessions, then nighttime meetings. And I believe it was at the September meeting where the board finally agreed on a target to get our concentration to less than 1. 4 is the max for the feds. The state is 2.0 for reporting it to the community. But the board hit the 0.7 as a target. And just so the board knows, the pilot testing has started this week up at the water. In fact, it was yesterday. The other one in the middle, now we're jumping to Brad's sandbox. For a long time, too long, because of the amount of water meters that were not functioning, we've been on a bi-monthly billing cycle. And you talk about complicated for your customers. Because by the time they've been late on 2 billing cycles, you're 4 months down the road, then their water gets cut off, and they can't remember that they didn't pay that bill 4 months ago. And Commissioner Roundtree has probably spent more time with me on some of the most difficult water billing situations we've ever had. And between Brad's staff and William's staff, we've been able to navigate those. But we now, this month, are on a monthly billing cycle. All of our radio read meters are functional. The new software is up and calibrated. And this was done with ARPA money that was committed a couple years back. And I know Brad has got to be breathing at least a little bit easier. A little bit.
Not better.
It never gets it. We touched on the moratorium for the data centers. It may seem small, but we were encouraged to apply for some pedestrian safety grant money, and I think we've got 2 of them in Gatesville that we're.
Yes, 2, and HSIP funds possibly to do the one at Sunny Lane.
But we didn't get this flyover sky bridge for the pedestrians.
When we build a new school, then we'll get that at the same time.
It can be like a triple.
After they expand the road. We don't need it before they expand the road, because then we'll have to take it down and start over again.
That's what just because it makes Mr. Summers, is it Ethan?
Yes.
Makes him smile when we push it.
Yes, it does.
We've had citizens talk to us about a number of animal issues. The board's got an animal committee they're working on. I continue to get calls and comments on roadside trash. And I think ultimately that's going to be potentially an economic development issue, because if folks come in to search out Gates County and they find trashy sections of highway, that may be one of those elements where they're looking for reasons to mark us off. For Denise and you, we're going to send you home with a printed copy of the North Carolina and U.S. Constitution that the county put together as part of the NC 250. And hopefully the commissioners will be handing those out individually to every student very, very soon. To know that despite everything you are looking after them and trying to get
I have one. I got one when I came through one. I was thinking to see if I have it with me, but I love that.
We have a small grant from NC East Alliance, $15,000, and Lisa is suggesting that we put that toward the welcome signage coming into Gates County that was brought up recently. And big news at the bottom, we've got a $1 million grant from USDA Rural Development, which gets us 20% down the way toward construction money for the new community center. And that assumes that $4.8 million cost estimate that your county manager pulled out of the air in February of '23, when I think I was 10 days on the job, we need to verify.
Inflation maybe has played a part, don't worry about.
That's coming down, but nonetheless, the RFQ went out for design services. Hopefully, at the end of the week, we'll have some folks who you all will be talking with about that project. But I really wanted to jump into the third column, because things are starting to move. We have received the correspondence from DEQ. It's dated January 30th. I don't think we got it till day before yesterday. But all of our plans and specs have met approval for the 27,000 linear feet of piping. This is the Gatesville transmission, the 158 connection, the 2 directional bores, one under Venice Creek, one under Trotman Creek on Carter's Road. We will be able to get those out to bid later this month. So hopefully we'll be able to come into budget. Green Engineering is going to be with us at your next work session on the 18th in the afternoon to give us all sorts of details and updates, if that's still a block of time that works. I was afraid I was saying, what?
No, I'm trying to think, I was like, what work session do we have? My brain just didn't work.
You mean to tell them we're supposed to wait for approval before we start construction?
It hurts.
No, work session sounds great. What time
If you want to be
work session?
paid.
I was hoping to have them from maybe 2 to 4, 2 to 5, you all could have dinner and then have your board.
So 2 o'clock, but you're out of town.
On the 18th.
She's not gonna be here.
Yeah, 2 o'clock.
Okay, 2 p.m.
Well, and if Renee's not gonna be here, it may have to be a brown bag lunch, bring your own, you know.
We'll see what we can do. We make sure we have food.
Did you?
Just to add to that, all Green Engineering is waiting on right now to put it out to bid is the, local newspapers. He's got to wait in their time frame. As soon as they give him a date when he can, it's going out.
And I've got a cheat sheet, or did you want us to grab our sandwiches?
It's up to y'all. It's ready, it's here. I've got ice over here. I was gonna make a few things. We've got, lemonade tea, blue raspberry lemonade, and cold water in that
Okay.
cooler. So if y'all are ready, if somebody would like to bless the food, that'd be great.
Make your announcement. Vice Chairman has a suggestion.
I was going to just suggest that maybe we do a quick break in the restroom right quick. I gotta make a quick phone call, and then, maybe we eat, and Mr. Schauer can kind of keep going as we kind of.
A working lunch?
Everybody
Okay.
with that?
We can do that. Do you wanna bless our food? I mean, I can. All right. Oh, he's like, we're gonna stand. Father God, I thank you for this opportunity to come together for the county, to work with colleagues and to just plan for a better Gates County. We ask that your hand be on our afternoon as we begin forward planning with ideas and concepts and how to take things to the next level with the food. And just let us have a good afternoon without much disagreement. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
We don't want disagreement today, y'all. I've been at home with fighting kids for 2 days. Accident and Mother Nature.
I got a feeling I'm going to lot speaking this afternoon.
I want you to say your voice. Say your voice.
Some of it is not.
They're wrong about it.
So
get
I
the
think we all
information.
need that.
I would, I
That's
would
why.
want to catch it, I would definitely do that.
You're not gonna do it.
Oh, no, no. I thought you were going to cook this week. I had to get some.
Well, she can answer this week.
So I'm not going to.
Yeah.
Sorry. Gooey butter cake.
She says it can't be shared.
Thank you.
I had a feeling she would run you.
Let me start.
I think it's a form that he had like an error or something. Yeah, yeah. I just thought I wasn't cool like the folks in Gates County, so.
I tried to open it on my phone and I had to, I did it from my desktop, but it did.
Oh, we did work that way, okay.
I did.
And
I
I
was
may
trying to think
have
how I
did,
eventually did it, and I got it to go through.
I may have did it from my phone, now that she said
Because I
that.
typically do everything through my phone. But
I didn't know what you were gonna be talking about later.
Oh, no, no, it's not that.
But yeah, I'm interested in that too.
Well, I've already done that.
Ronnie, he said he did some school.
Wow.
So he said it's gonna affect
Good.
that.
spreadsheets, spreadsheets is a list of,
Yeah.
errors in the county.
He,
Which is perfect.
Jump in and run forward.
Absolutely.
rap.
Yeah, we had everything else.
So were schools out yesterday and we go back, but I would come in, they were really were
Yes, they had a charge late today.
Yeah.
But they were out yesterday and Monday, and
No.
they needed to go back.
I have all about in person.
My 11-year-old all day was like, I don't know why they canceled school. We should have been in school. There's no snow in the classrooms.
Did they do virtual, like having to do stuff at home? Yeah.
It just was such when I'm working, that's harder. Since I work remotely, I couldn't get a snow day.
Right. Yeah, well, that's hard on that too, trying to do all that at home.
It is.
My, like our youngest son is 22, so my babies are all grown. But we should end the state, and it's funny because she's a senior this year.
Where was that? That our commissioner, of course,
And he's in Raleigh.
really strong contenders.
He's going to go, because they close, I think it was Monday, Friday. They had like class, so they canceled classes or did them online, and he's done it
Okay.
online.
Gotcha.
He's a.
And some people just
Yeah, I mean, he
I have a couple of
appreciates
kids
it.
that don't do well.
Yeah, all of that era, all of it.
Procedure when you put in the 40 horsepower pump to replace the 25 horsepower pump. And that took us from 150 gallons per minute up to 320, and we have now applied for a permit to go to 500, because it will do 500 gallons per minute. So that is in the works. And to say that was an arduous process was an understatement, and it got so bad between Thanksgiving and Christmas that Dr. Sproul, I thought, was going to walk away from the project, because he was encountering so many challenges with the review, because DOT has new staff, some are very inexperienced, and just were not familiar with the calculations, the new standards, and and at one point, Green Engineering said to me, well, if you've got a lifeline, you may need it. So we called a lady that Senator Hannick put us in touch with. Her name is Jenny Kelverton. She's a legislative staffer. She's a PE engineer, works for the General Assembly, and she made a couple of phone calls, and right before Christmas, we got to go ahead on Well 1A. But I think through all of these communications, we've been able to present a picture to DEQ that we really need the 2 new deep wells. Those are now getting quite a bit of attention. But we ran into a situation, I don't know when it started, but was it November? And as I understand, I'm going to give you the layman's description. The pump on well 2 started shorting out. And we went through a number of troubleshooting exercises to see if it was electrical, to see if it was a circuit. We ultimately pulled the pump, put another one down there. And what we discovered was there was a hole in the casing of our well shaft. It's 400 and some odd feet deep. The well is nearly 50 years old. And things do happen on a 50-year-old piece of apparatus. Well, the hole was of a size that it let the gravity and the ground from the casing come into the well and ruin the motor. So we took steps to have and that well had been operating at
680.
No, it was 680, wasn't it, on a 24-hour basis, which is, well, nonetheless, we had the casing, we recased the well. The well had was it a 10 or a 12 inch?
It was a 12-inch well, and we had to reline it to an 8-inch.
Or to an 8 or a 10?
To 8.
And we knew we would lose some pumping capacity with that. But as this was East Point, the group that has been helping us all along, as they were replacing the 400 feet of pipe, which is stainless steel, 20-foot lengths, and as they do this, they drop the casing, they put another one on top, then they weld it, and then send it down up there. That's a long process to go down 400 feet. Well, as they were installing the new casing, they encountered a surprise in that well number 2 had twists and turns, and as Brad told me, I hate to say this, it was more crooked than a politician. All present in the company excluded.
Jeez, Brad.
I mean,
Read the room.
federal level,
You see on TV, yeah. So, funny how it is, they were putting this 400-foot well casing in, a 20-foot section at a time, with a crane way overhead. This thing was apparently shimming and shifting and shaking. So we have a crooked hole. Nonetheless, we got the casing completed. We put in the test pump, and I'm trying to think, is it the same size horsepower, or a little bit higher on this one?
Same size.
Same size. And they got the thing fired up, and our production dropped 59%. From 680 gallons a minute on a 24-hour basis to 280, which really puts us at risk for being able to meet our demand. And after a lot of consultation with let me back up. So Brad started asking, well, why is the production down? We knew it might be down 10 or 15% going with a smaller casing. So they put in I guess it's a camera on a long cable. And this is a well that had a screen at the very bottom that sucks water out of the aquifer, and then another one somewhere in the middle. As they examined this new casing that had been installed, it was determined that the casing was not installed, and the casing doesn't just slip in there. They put it in place, then they pack it with gravel. So it's in there solid. It came to our attention that the casing was not installed all the way down. It's off by about 5 feet. Therefore, our screens where the water is pulled in is not aligned with the aquifer where it had been prior. And Brad has had some very tough heart-to-heart conversations with the contractor. The contractor has taken responsibility for the situation that we're in, and the contractor, I guess, met with Brad and I, was it Friday last week, Thursday? Something?
Yeah, Friday.
And they have committed, they're going to make this right. They're going to correct the situation. Which is admirable, and what we should do. The trick is, in order to correct this, we've got to abandon well 2 and come up with well 2A. We can do it on the same site, but we've got to go about 45 feet back from the road. And there are buffer requirements.
45 feet behind the existing.
Yeah, I'm sorry, 45 feet but beyond the existing well. And that 45 feet creates a situation where we don't have enough land to do that, to maintain the 100-foot buffer.
You may be about to answer this, but can I ask a random question? If we're looking at drilling new wells and we're gonna have to have a well moved, can we really move it at this time?
Well, given the length of time it's going to take to put in a new well, just to meet current demand, we really need to do this right away. I've got a list down below. You know, Gates County has 3 supply wells. If we look at our neighbors, Terrell County has 8 wells. Perquimans has 9, plus they have 3 emergency backup wells. Chilwan has 8 wells. Pasquotank has 30. Bertie has 13, Hertford County has 14, Town of Edenton has 5, South Mills has 12. Like everything in our history, we've kind of done things on a real tight budget, and so we have no room for catastrophic failure. We're able to produce 280 gallons a minute on the 12, because your well is only supposed to run 12 hours, then it's supposed to rest 12 hours so that you don't drain your supply. We do have 2 emergency interconnects, one with Perquimans, one with Chilwan. Both of those, I think Brad said, could produce 150 gallons each, which isn't much. Well, if you've ever driven down Water Plant Road and taken a gander over toward the wells, there's nothing but woodland behind them. The property is owned and it's recorded under what's called the Parker family estate. And I was thinking I was going to be coming here to the board at this meeting to say we're going to need to buy 45 feet of land. Well, Brad and I went and met with Dick Godwin Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock. And we took maybe 20 minutes to run through this with him. And he said, look, he said he knew some of the Parker family. And by 6 o'clock that same day, I had a call from Vic saying that he reached the gentleman down in Georgia, and they've agreed to donate 45 feet to the county. So a deed is being prepared, a survey is being prepared, and without without an objection from the board, I would like us to proceed with accepting that donation.
Can we do it in this meeting today?
That's kind of gray and
Yeah.
real sticky. We could call a meeting to do it if it's urgent, but beyond that, it's our water system. I think this would qualify as calling an urgent.
Yeah, I really don't see why you couldn't amend your agenda, because this is kind of
Yeah.
a really emergent situation.
I'm just looking to her.
I mean, if we could amend the agenda, and it is a public meeting that was advertised.
It was advertised as a public meeting.
And for updates on projects.
Depends on how you advertised it.
It was advertised as a planning session.
I feel like we need to have a special meeting or emergency meeting of some kind to be able to do it. I don't think this is the right forum.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Okay.
if we
I was a
could,
clerk for a long time too, so.
well, if we could take steps to plan to do that as soon
Yeah.
as.
Whatever the fastest time we can get legally.
Because
Okay.
today is what, Wednesday?
Yeah.
I mean, we could do Friday at 1 o'clock if I post it within the next 10 minutes.
If
A special,
and I
a
will
special
say-
call,
I
or
will-
we can do an emergency.
I was gonna say, because it's special, I'm gonna have to defer to vice chair, because I'm gonna be across the state.
Yeah.
If we did Friday, otherwise,
I'm fine, I mean, y'all just.
it is
No,
water
we
and
won't be here.
emergent, like, to me,
I
that would
mean-
also qualify as an emergent.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
I mean,
Yes.
we can do an emergency called meeting, but I would need to get everybody notified, like ASAP.
And that would be for when?
As soon as you need it.
As soon as we get it, like,
Friday's as soon as you can get it.
No, I mean, we can do
if
one
we go
this
emergency,
afternoon,
we can do it this afternoon. If we can do that. that
and
would be fine.
I'll have to make contact with
Yeah.
the
After
other.
6 a.m. tomorrow, it's on.
And Commissioner Forsythe may be here later this
He'll be
afternoon.
here later.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Okay.
Bob said he was gonna try to come back. So,
Okay,
um,
so if we have y'all, and he's gonna be here, then I just need to make contact with Jonathan and.
Tomorrow morning, I am meeting with DEQ right there for a site visit, and he is preparing a letter to send to Raleigh for pre-approval. And once we get pre-approval back, we have to go ahead and start putting a hole in the ground. So, I mean, that's,
But he will not release the letter
4 o'clock
until we
today?
can
4 o'clock
show
is great.
that the county owns
right,
this
we
piece
have,
of property.
he has to have a copy of the deed stating that we own the land, and he has to have a letter from Green Engineer saying that it meets the setback requirements.
And this is just to accept the land so that we can do the,
Let's go ahead and do it this afternoon.
4 p.m.
But again, I can't say enough, and if anybody's talked to him last week, so he's been really struggling health-wise with whether it's flu or.
it's been hitting him once or twice a year.
Yeah, he's really, and he was supposed to have surgery tomorrow, that I don't know that they were gonna be able to do, because he was still struggling with this sinusitis or whatever.
Mhm.
But he was sounding horrible when Brad and I were there, but he still jumped in with both feet and had it done literally before 6 o'clock. So, and that's the beauty of being in a smaller community. I guarantee you, Wake County, Guilford County, Durham County, they could not operate this quick. I mean, we are very blessed to have a county attorney local that makes his office available to us. So that's the way we'd like to proceed. We'll let Renee get us scheduled for a meeting. And, so I guess you'd say the purpose is to accept a donation of land adjacent to well number 2. And it's just under a quarter of an acre. It's about 9,000 square feet. But it's just literally a photo.
I'm sorry, I'm talking about.
But it's just under a quarter of an acre. And again, but for a good close relationship locally, I mean, that's where these interconnections y'all were talking about really play good. Okay, moving right along. Down below that on my dashboard, I've been having some discussion with the planning and economic development director, who is holding a piece of paper up in front of her face,
I'm looking for a parcel number.
about a proposal that she's put forth to relocate planning, inspections, zoning, and all associated operations to the Rosenwald School. We keep the Rosenwald School air conditioned and heated to prevent mold and all that. It's usable, accessible. She has indicated that in the cramped office space they've got, when they are having folks come in with, say, a large-scale project or a large-scale consideration of maybe selling a piece of property, they really have no private place where they can sit around a table with those representatives and lay out things without a whole lot of eyes and ears. And there's been some concern that when certain people walk into the county office, telephones ring and say, well, guess who just walked in? Or just, and we'd like to be able to assure not just Gates County property owners, but anybody who wants to do business in Gates County, that they can have a quiet, confidential conversation in a professional setting. And I think Lisa will be a good steward of the Rosenwald School. From what she has discussed, she's not looking at any kind of putting up office walls, just working within the structure that's there. It's got some pretty nice wide open spaces. And then this will, in the 200 building, free up some space that if we could take down a couple of interior walls, might be able to create a conference room or even improve the customer service area. So, because I don't know if the tax office has any kind of a conference room when they've got folks to meet with it. And maybe the tax office would share it with the utilities office. I don't know how well they get along, but I'm sure they do. But just to have a conversation on that side of the street that folks could use, I think would be a benefit. And again, other than changing the address on the stationery for her department, as I mentioned, Crystal continues to maintain utilities and HVAC on that building, and I think we would always want to respect the fact that we've got a historic marker there, and when people come to town, if they want to visit the Rosenwald School, they could come while staff are there, they could get a tour, they could see the photos that are hanging on the walls. Right now, it's just a locked up building.
So I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
We
I
can
have something to say. Go ahead.
Okay, you go ahead. I was
No,
gonna say,
no, no.
I just learned from you that we have another piece of property that we own that could become available in the nearish future.
Right. Yeah, possibly.
Because that would keep you walkable to the county offices in my brain, like to the.
It may be,
Okay.
that may. I
Okay.
mean, that's up to you guys. Yeah, this would be something we wouldn't be modifying or whatever you decide to do later, but it also has office, conference room space for people to roll out their plans, or maybe even meetings for other committees. Because it's enough room for, we've had a meeting out there, I think it's been up to 20 people that you have in the Rosenwald building. Yeah. So, committees or maybe even a planning board workshop, things like that. But when people come in to talk about things such as projects, economic development, or subdividing a large piece of property or a small piece of property, we've had, sometimes those are emotional decisions, and people have barged in and things like that. Our plotter, we have a large scale plotter. We have a cardboard tube on the end of it so a door doesn't hit it. We've run out, I think we've grown out of some space, but we are blessed with it, we are grateful, so please don't think that. Talk to the people there, they're open to that as well, so don't think we're just making a decision and kind of have, put that out there, and they're open to it. But whatever you choose later, that's your pleasure, but, gone in there and looked around, I think it definitely would be useful, and we would respect the space again, as Mr. Sowers said, historically, make sure that it stays that way, no major renovations or anything like that. But it's just, I think it has a few pieces of office furniture in there. We have some, but again, that's our thought. I think it would be a great asset for us, and a lot of the planning and zoning and inspections offices are satellite offices in other counties. We kind of looked at that. We've even talked and are switching over to credit card and electronic payment systems with Citizen Serve and things like that. Everything we do can be obtained online, whether it be a deed, tax form, anything like that. So we have put some thought into it.
Once upon a time, I asked Dr. Riddick if the board would entertain the county manager moving to the Rosenwald School. Because it really
Like he's
was.
fighting for your space.
And she just told me in no uncertain terms, Mr. Manager, you are staying right here, but we can get our hands on it.
Oh.
That way, as a law enforcement, go by and
But anyhow,
I thought you were about to have some competition.
No, I think this
Anytime,
really,
please.
I think, I love where I'm at, I'm fine, but I do think Lisa's come up with a great suggestion, if the board would be willing to let us look to make that happen, and I know you had indicated y'all had thought about some other.
No, I didn't know when she started thinking about this, but I just learned.
Yeah, it was way before that.
I asked her, that's why I was saying I didn't know if it had been considered with that, but.
Well, yeah, and like I said, you might want to
And I
do
have
the
to say,
research on the
we
deed.
own the Board of Education building. If they relocate, I did not know this until she gave me a handy map I printed out for y'all to look at, or brought it for y'all to look at, she printed it out. No, we own that per the map,
Yeah, part
and,
of that, and we need to ask Taylor and them, based on the deed, do they really own that? It is an extensive deed and discussion that Mr. McDuffie signed off on way long ago.
Years
And
ago, it was
and
him.
I've never been in that.
if it was him, it was years and years ago. But I mean, they have a conference room, they have different offices, and I'm saying if, because one thing that's been mentioned with them is consolidation, then moving central offices to whatever school closes, then we would have an empty building we own that is ready for office, like day-to-day office kind of things.
And then maybe that this one here could be like, because it's gonna be a while for that to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
And maybe that this is a good stopgap to kind of get Lisa's team
Yeah.
out of there, getting some more, because at the end of the day, where you at, yeah, you can make it work, but you still have to have space to do your business.
Right.
And we can't, we have nowhere to roll out plans or
Right.
even talk to developers, and I'm getting a lot of calls from developers.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
gotta get out of that space that you're in there,
And-
and more into a private space where you can conduct some business.
And Taylor's having an issue, and like I said, we haven't divulged, hey, this is what we're thinking, but she's having a problem, just like with people with foreclosures, they have to stand out in a hall and hear some of the worst news of their life and talk to people. So I think what Mr. Sauer proposes, a great idea for them to have some space.
Yeah.
So it's just some other things to think about, and of course it's for you guys, it's for you.
Well, this just seemed to be a forum to share that
Yeah.
concept with the board.
And we will always be available to everyone, so know that. I mean, whatever we need to do, that would be a total understanding for everyone, and we have discussed that. And they, again, very good.
As I agree, you most definitely need the space, also the tax office. And I'm glad to hear that you maintain the integrity of the building, because that building have historical significance.
Absolutely.
Right then, Roosevelt School, especially for the African American community. So to maintain the things that the pictures and the history, it's going to be very essential so that you don't get any kickback from the African American community about the integrity of the historic aspect of it.
First understanding, yes, that was the first understanding of that, and we understood that.
And then later, since you're not changing any walls, you're not really not spending money other than,
Yeah.
Seems a little ahead. After the school board decides what they want to do, and then they vacate that building, then at that point in time, maybe we can repurpose it for something
Yeah.
else. Or maybe move from there back into there.
You tell us what.
Yeah, I was
that would be
blown
the
away to
plan.
see that on the map. Like I told you, because I called her over there and I was like, hold on, is this what I think it is?
Yeah, because there was a few, there was a few that were not on that first
That
list, so that the
surprised.
comprehensive list. Yeah, that would be interesting for us, and we can ask Taylor too, because typically if anything's leased, it wouldn't be on a property record card as an owner.
Yeah.
So when we looked at that, that's a possibility for later to consider, definitely. But thank you. Thank you.
Are you gonna leave him that right?
Yeah, we have all the plans for the county, even the historic courthouse became,
I thought that was exciting to see
Beautiful
how much we
plans.
actually have.
yeah, it's amazing what
Yeah.
plans we have found, which would be great to take
And
to
there's
the
a,
Rosenwald building for historical reference.
I think there's a list in the top left corner that's getting flipped to it maybe, with a list of the properties.
Yeah, we had to do that kind of big, and like I told Emily.
I was like an excited kid when she handed me that.
And of course, we're still looking for a more appropriate home for Git, and they relocate. And, that can
Right.
also be a school if one opens up.
Right.
Public school.
Right. Which, again, noting with that, depending on what school they close, the only school that they own is Gatesville. We own the rest, which just me, since we're not, televised with the media anywhere, I really feel like they're gonna lean towards Gatesville because that's a property they own and they wanna hang on to something they own. Just my personal opinion. I think there may be some different motives than what's best for the kids and finances, but, I said that to them, so I feel comfortable saying that here.
Right, is Gatesville on county sewer, or they on the septic? That's what I thought. Because Gatesville would be a good location for a pump station if we were to ever do the
Right.
sewer project for downtown, where everything would drain to that pump station and then we would pump it up the highway toward the honey pot.
Yeah. And keeping in mind too, going forward in November, we're gonna have a different board one way or the other to work with on their side. I said in November, December, we're gonna have a different board on their side to work with regardless. Because 3 seats aren't returning, so, for whatever that's worth.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. You do need stuff.
Excuse me.
Y'all are tight in there.
We are.
I mean, I've only been in a few times.
It's a good team though. I mean, we've been fortunate.
You have to like each other.
Yeah, we've done well. You know, I got 6'5" Frank, and we got CW. I mean, they're tight. They've been doing really well. I'm very fortunate to have. Yeah. Yeah, that's what we say. But yeah, I think this will open up something for the other folks too, and you guys. I mean, that's up to you, but I think it will offer some expansion. But thank you very much.
Well, we've kind of rushed through some of this stuff, but those were the points I was hoping to get today, so if there are other things we can address or.
Real quick, I've reached out to Commissioner Craddock. He confirmed receipt of my emergency meeting notice, and Commissioner Forsyth, I can't tell if it went through, so I did try to call him, and I did not get word back from him to
Well, he
confirm
did that
receipt.
here shortly.
Okay.
Okay.
But you said Craddock was in the firm?
Yes.
Maintenance, just conversations, products, projects, initiatives, and such.
I just hope that the Association of County Commissioner groups will go back and tell people Gates County really got some stuff moving.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to, again, I was taking some notes while Neil was sharing some thoughts. Staffing is an interesting thing here, and the and the sheriff's officer are fully staffed. And you won't find too many social services departments that are fully
I don't know if
staffed.
there's any, I figure one.
And-
So we're top of the right list somewhere. Yeah.
It's funny, I now have a daughter who works for the state in the Department of Health and Human Services in social work. And she was asking me, she said, Dad, can you look up how many children Gates County has in foster care? So one day when I finally remembered, I asked Willie Smith about it, and he said, well, Mr. Simon, we don't have any children in foster care. And I said, well, how do we explain that? He said, well, Gates County, our families find a way to take care of their children. And if the child has to be removed from one particular household, there's a family member, a neighbor, but he said, we take care of ourselves. So I called my daughter back and shared that with her. And I know they've got horrible situations in some of the bigger counties where they have children sleeping in the Department of Social Services.
And we have a lot of families that take in foster kids from other counties in the county, which is nice. So we
actually have an employee that's done that.
Yeah, we have several in the community that do foster, but it's always children from other counties because they never.
I think that says a lot.
Yeah.
For Gates County as a county, it really does.
I was worried about fostering. He told me that he couldn't give a child back.
Truly blessed in Gates County. It's one of the few places I know, I'm not saying it's my hometown, that we love each other
Yeah.
as a whole, and the character of citizens here is outstanding. I can attest to that daily,
care of each other.
interacting with fellow citizens and our colleagues here. It's genuine love and genuine try to do what's in the best interest of the county. That's truly a blessing. I thank God for that.
Just to see tragedies like the house burning down or like, I have never seen so many people.
I'm gonna tell you, I was about to come to your house the other morning.
Yeah, you were.
Your dryer was running, my daughter came to me and she's like, Mommy, there's smoke coming from the house with the lady you work with. And I said, what? And I go out there.
Or the blower.
I don't know, but I went out there and I could see like it was a little vent. And I was like, Lady, her house is fine. And she's like, I think you need to go check on her. And I was like, she's okay.
Oh, that's so a tougher thing.
She just came to me. She was
Because,
so
it's only
concerned.
me and mom, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, apparently my daughter is looking out for you.
Tell her to thank you for looking out for us.
It
Tell her
was
that
funny.
eases my mind.
She really wanted me to go knock on your door, and I was like, if I did not see the vent, if I could not tell where it was coming from.
Oh, that's sweet. You gotta look out for each other.
The next generation's catching on.
Oh, that's good.
I do love seeing the list of the accomplishments, because sometimes you forget that you're actually getting anything done.
That's all we mean by that.
See that things have been affected and voiced. Fun. So with this, I'm gonna ask a question with the welding, with the new well here, and looking at, I don't know how in comparison to us in Terrell County, they got 8 wells and 2 RO plants. But,
And the other thing that Brad was telling me this morning, is that Taylor County only has 1,800 customer accounts.
Yes.
Terrell County is very small.
And we have 4,600, I believe.
Yes.
Like, that's, I mean, it's not even like exceptionally larger than us, so
Well, I can,
can you, yeah.
I'm referring back to the politics, so don't take this back wrong. Turner County got their stuff across the center of Mark Bassman. That's where they have all their stuff.
But if we're gonna compete for grants, we gotta get back down to the tier 1 and not be competing with tier 2.
It's that, and then also, it's us as county managers getting out there, going to the state, engaging our representatives.
Right.
Making sure that we're doing it. And that's just not something that the county commissioners have done in the past, up until here recently. And that was one of the things when I rolled on to the county commissioners board that I was told is you have to be engaged at the state level to bring funding back for your county.
So I'm hearing from Congressman Davis's office really regularly the past few weeks. Sabane's office has been a great deal of communication, asking questions, follow up. So they're looking for the fluoride, all that still, like that's obviously there. But they are really looking at how to word things in a way to get us the 3 ambulances that have been requested at the last thing. There's some kind of a funding source out there where she believes if worded correctly, we can get at least 2 of the 3, if not 3, new ambulances.
Wow.
And that's, she's progressively sounding better each time we talk. So and she's calling me. I'm not stalking them, but.
Do they know that our EMS is privately owned?
They do. But because they receive county dollars.
Okay.
Because we are in the medical desert, and it's actually a community funding source, not I forget the way she worded it, but it's some sort of a community funding opportunity out there, and they're going to try and word it in a way for community, because it's the only medical support our community has, so they're trying to word it in a way that'll be accepted. But yeah, so I'll update on that as I hear more, but she's excited me with the talk.
That was Kimberly Mack.
You may remember, what is
One of
Terrell
us staff
County,
people
what is the
at the
state
state.
project they got? Because that has to be what they got those wells from. They had some type of project, my phone doesn't work, I can't.
They got some of their well power from the prison.
That's exactly,
Texas Trust.
Yes, it
They
had to have
You
that.
know, it's gone now, but I just wonder if they got some of their well.
They would have had to.
Which it might have been best not getting prison there.
Well,
Yeah.
it could have been, but one of the RO plants is right beside the prison. I mean, that's right on the other side of the fence.
Then that's what it's from.
Yeah, they-
Now, they're also, like, hindsight on that, they're also on the UAL because their water system is upside down and it can't self-support, so there's always there's always more to this story. So don't think that they're doing everything great there, it's,
I know when COVID hit and the prison shut down,
yeah,
they lost like 48% of their revenue
Yeah.
from water.
Yeah.
From the prison shut down.
I'm just looking at
that's where they got their wells from, was to support the prison, and that's why Bassnight was able to get the state dollars.
But we do have the ear of our representatives, and
Yep,
you know,
yep.
when we were sitting with Bobby and told Bobby that, you know, with everything that was going on in Gates County, we need $100 million state funding so we can do this. He didn't bat an eye. It was just give us a plan of what you want to do and how you want to do it, and that's why we created this whole committee as far as, you know, our county's plan and developing that. So in order to do all these things, we gotta put the plan out in front of our representatives, so that way they can walk around the halls and go, I got a county that needs our help, and this is the funding that they need, so that way they can get it into the budgets as they create it. We don't need it all at one whack, we just need a little bit here, a little bit there, and eventually, next thing you know, you're talking about real money.
Right. You're smart to do that, because 20 years ago, the general assembly didn't operate that way. Now, it's just whoever gets in the pipeline, and they hand out money, hand over feet. I mean, they built courthouses, they built things, they were the dream of like 30 years. But you gotta be in the middle. You gotta get it
Gotta
going
get there, that's right.
and have somebody have some power.
Yeah, and I, believe it or not, you never want to hear this out of another Republican's mouth. I don't really agree with what they're doing up there as far as doing the whole rollback of the taxes and everything, because there's so many people in Gates County, in the state of North Carolina, that is in some type of a need between our infrastructures that's going on in North Carolina. You got the whole stuff going on in Western Carolina, they're completely having to rebuild their infrastructure. It's going to take decades upon decades. And I just, North Carolinians can afford the tax rate that we have. Why roll it back when you have the funds available there? Just be good stewards of the money and use it where you need to use it at. And nobody's, North Carolina has a responsible tax rate. Other states don't. And as long as we use the money wisely, there's no need to do a whole rollback that they're doing. Use the money for infrastructure projects. That's what it's there for. And they're letting the infrastructure of North Carolina go down because they think that it's a good political move to reduce our taxes and doing the whole rollback thing. Okay, Yeah, you get political points for that, but are you being good stewards of the state doing it that way? So, you'll never hear another Republican say that, but that's just the way I feel about it. Anybody?
I was gonna say, anything else? Oh, okay, random question that I wrote down yesterday. Where did I write it down? Hold on. Can't remember. I know there was a question I was gonna ask today. Don't remember where I wrote it. Oh, no, I do remember where I wrote it. Because we may already have the answer to this, and I don't know, so this is to our finance director and county manager here. What is the date that we require the Board of Education to have their budget to us by?
Well, the statute says they have to have it to us by May 15th.
Unless otherwise indicated by the county. I looked it up last night. So we can, it is 115C-429. Yeah, 115C-429 says that we can set the date. It says May 15th or indicated by us. I didn't know if we had anywhere where we had ever indicated it prior to. I didn't assume we did, but I think we should.
We're asking for the county to have their budget done early this year.
We're asking because we want to have the budget approved in May.
Yeah, so
We're going into June, so we were gonna need theirs by April 15th at the latest, right?
I was just taking out, I'm
No, I'm looking at I see the wheels turning.
Yeah. That was listed in their 5-year financial plan about having it to the county by May 15th. I don't remember where I put that. So I went to look up the statute for it because I knew we wanted to approve the budget hopefully at the May 20th meeting, which would mean we would need theirs before May 15th. And it did state that it was at the discretion of the county, basically, or May 15th if we didn't indicate otherwise. They actually have to do it through, process. And then also the question of can we line item names, and we cannot line item names, but we can allot topic, general categories for it. All right. No, but what were you, is the April 15th, like if we were looking to approve a budget May 20th, would that be, how long do you need to work their budget in to present to us for approval?
Well, the bottom line is, really, whatever they present, like last year, it's gonna be what y'all decide to give them.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't really care what they gave me, it's gonna be what y'all will decide you're gonna allow them to have. So it kinda goes back to y'all's court on when you get a chance to look at it and discuss it and determine what you're gonna allow them to potentially get.
I think, Danny has already put a lot of stuff together as far as what we wanted to do as far as, sectioning off pieces of their budget and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever, y'all are ready to meet with him, he's got a lot of stuff already done.
I know the weather's just kind of take half of the time to clean anything right now, so.
Hold on, I'm going back. Who are you talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking you meant Stephen. I was trying to go I was thinking you said the wrong name, and I was thinking you meant Stephen was bringing in the budget from them.
I don't see any problem in, if you want to try to vote on it earlier, to give them an earlier deadline. I mean, I hate to say this, but they're gonna give it to us whenever they're ready to give it to us.
I think it sends a statement out
If
there
we
saying that
set some
we
precedent
would like
here,
it by this, we are doing ours early, so we would like some.
And I've already mentioned to Stephen in a few conversations that we're hoping to have it approved, and the reasons for being nobody should find out the last week of June what they have to work with July 1.
Yeah.
It's never okay. You know, Renee and I worked in the Hosky, February, March, into March, you typically knew at the very latest, early April, what we were moving into July 1 with. Granted, it's a little different, but, and he said he agreed, but we haven't put anything out there as far as a formal date of when we would need it by, so.
And also too, in our last meeting, we mentioned about their plan and how their plan was not consistent with reality.
Yeah.
And that, they needed to redo their plan. They agreed that it wasn't, it was some places in there that they were saying, well, the governor, and this is back when Governor Hoover was there, was wanting to give the increase of 18%, and they baked that into those numbers, and that never happened. So,
Well, I mean, even in this, and they were talking about, this is made in 23 since that, I mean, the 828,000, their enrollment line said, taking into account the recent decrease in enrollment directly related to COVID-19 is anticipated increase in enrollment over the next 5 years. We've never had an anticipated increase in enrollment in the past 5 years.
we have an increase in enrollment in 20
15
years.
to 20 years, way pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So the whole thing has,
It's completely wrong.
yeah.
And so it's gotta be redone. And they kind of half-hearted,
Yeah.
kind of nodded and agreed,
Yeah.
but I think that's something we need to formally put that out there, that we expect you to redo this plan.
Yeah. And have a budget to us by April 15th. Tax day, please remember. Oh, okay. That was my light reading last night. 115C was my light reading last night. Chat. I was reading, and I'm like, oh, okay.
By the time you finish this, you might have a lot of
I was checking the must and shalls and all the things and trying to figure out where we had leniency and where we didn't. So, yeah, maybe I should go for law. So I need to. Oh, fun stuff. I do enjoy it. Cool. Well,
I have been tied up with my business with lawyers and everything for the past 3 years, dealing with delays and government calls, delays and all that stuff. So I've gotten to be really good friends with Nate Story, my lawyer, and he told me he was going to send me an honorary degree from Herschel.
lawyers are my friends. I have a few that I'll text. I'm like, can I legally say this? Okay, please shut up. Don't not say that. Okay, cool. Oh.
We have guests, I know you probably want to get on the road.
Yeah.
A little bit of a hike.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for y'all's time.
I
Absolutely,
appreciate
thank you
it.
for allowing us to be here.
Y'all have a nice event here compared to some of your fellow counties.
See?
I mean, you have it well, Scott has it all well.
Oh, it's because we're
laid out.
missing two of them? No, I'm just kidding.
And, I mean, that's far and above what some other things.
Yeah. He's,
Y'all be congratulated.
Thank you.
I didn't know we were gonna have this today. So.
Well, yeah, last year.
He did. He did. We,
The snow slowed down.
I was gonna say that.
But you did. I made sure I was at the
Well,
computer.
and you were just out of commission, it's nice to meet you.
On the release.
So he just had